Okay, this is session one of Dogs in the Vineyard for Story Game Sunday. I always like to kick off a brand new series by going through a procedure that I called CATS. It's C-A-T-S. It stands for concept, aim, tone, and subject matter. So let's go over that. If you have any questions during all this, just interrupt me, okay? So the concept of Dogs in the Vineyard is, it's a sort of fantasy version of, like Mormon Utah in the 1800s. Okay, the community, the setting is a group of very religious people who have gone west to flee persecution back east, and in the game, you each play a young person, usually about 18 to 20 years old, who is called a dog. And the dogs go out in pairs or small groups, in this case, a small group. They just travel from town to town, mostly doing like religious services, like naming babies and conducting marriages and things like that. But they are also empowered by the faith to root out sin. Okay, so you'll be getting to towns. The town usually has some kind of like problem, and that problem is a manifestation of demonic forces. And the reason why these demonic forces were able to get their hooks in the community is because sin started happening in this community, and sin usually started happening because someone is behaving pridefully. And in this context, pride means you are dissatisfied with your station in life. Okay, so if you're a woman and you don't like the things that are put on you because you're a woman, and you rebel against that, that's a prideful behavior. Okay, and that leads to sin, or that leads to injustice, which leads to sin, which leads to demons. Okay, so your job in that case and in the game is to basically like root out the sinners, figure out where the original kernel of pride is if you can, basically just react to the spiritual trauma that's going on in this community. You're empowered by the faith to take care of it however you wish. If the person will not stop their sinning ways, you are empowered to drag them into the streets and shoot them. The thinking being, it's better to lose an arm but save the body, right? So, but if you can do it without murdering people, that's probably, I think that's an escalation, right? But in any case, you're empowered by the faith, but you're not necessarily empowered by the territorial authorities. So there can be sheriffs that are not members of the faithful, and there can be other territorial authorities. And you might be, and you would be committing a crime by doing that. But in any case, so that's just a basic tension that exists in the game: the authority of the faith and the authority of the secular or non-faithful people. So yeah, so basically it's an episodic game. You go from town to town. It's ideally like one town per session, unless it's a big deal town, like it says, in which case it might be a 2-session town. And you just do that, and we kind of just see where it goes. It uses an interesting die resolution mechanic where basically you're a conflict resolution mechanic where you roll a bunch of dice, and it's basically a series of poker-style raises and sees to see who will win. Right? So that's the concept. Our aim for today is to get through character creation. Character creation is very fun in Dogs. It's one of the most enjoyable character creation processes. So I want to be really deliberate about doing that. We'll do character creation. We will then do what's called initiation conflict for each character, whereby we see your character back at the training city of Bridal Falls when they're getting trained to be dogs. We see a particularly interesting and salient moment in their training, and we see how they do. All right, and that leads to things. But it's also a chance to try out the mechanics. And then once the initiation conflict's done, then we'll begin the first town. I don't think we'll finish the first town because character creation can be a little lengthy. If we don't, we will finish the town next session, and then we'll have a second town in the third session. Okay, so I think that's how it's going to proceed. Tone. I think it's really important. People who've played this game, maybe you have a different thought on it, but I think it's really important to take their religion seriously. Even if you yourself as a player don't take it seriously, even if there are elements in the setting where they don't take it seriously, I think it's really important for the dogs to at least take it seriously, because the NPCs do. Whether they're faithful or not, they take it seriously as a thing in the world. And so I like for there to be like per se demons and actual supernatural activity. Not super heavy-handed. Like I don't usually go really heavy with that, but I don't necessarily have the demons be like, they're not like a metaphor or like a symbol. There could be like legit demons in sorcery. Okay, it won't always be big and flashy on screen, but you know, exorcisms are a thing that happen, that kind of thing. So the tone, I think, is like it's somewhat pastoral. It's somewhat it's very heavily inflected with religion and religious severity. And it can be a little dark and supernatural. Do you guys have any questions about that or thoughts on that?
I like all of that.
Yeah, it sounds like a good breeding ground.
Okay.
Chaos.
Good. Subject matter wise, this is an important conversation for dogs in particular. If you are someone, a thing that's definitely on the table is like women and men are expected to behave a certain way and do certain things. Okay. And so if you have a problem with that, and I know some people do have a problem with that in this game, like if you have an issue with like women, you know, being forced to be demure and submissive to men and to yield, right, and to behave a certain way, well, let this be an exercise in like at least exploring that, okay, because that's what this setting is. It's really traditional, like old traditional religious environment, okay, and men and women have really specific roles. In this particular first town, there are probably going to be themes associated with like childbearing and stillbirth and miscarriage. There are probably also going to be themes dealing with sex and sexuality. So just know that that's on the table. And if anything gets too hot for you or it makes you uncomfortable in an unfun way, you can say X card, you can type X card into the chat, or you can do this, like Hunter Hearst Helmsley, you can do that. And a little wrestling joke for the viewers. In which case we'll stop, and if we need to discuss it, we will, but usually you don't have to. You can kind of figure out what went wrong and just kind of reverse and dial it back. Does anyone have any subjects that are absolute hard lines you don't want to cross? I'm going to throw out there right away. I do not want sexual violence. I think sexual violence would probably happen a lot in this setting. Like if we're considering it to be sort of a pseudo-historical setting, I prefer not to do it in game. That's just my preference. Does anybody else have any like hard things like cruelty to animals or torture or anything like that?
With this one, I'll probably rely on the X card to fill it out, because I think with this setting, it's important to try to challenge yourself to deal with hard things.
I think that's right. Yeah.
So,
yeah. I'm with you.
I was going to say exactly the same. Like, we'll know it when we see it probably, but
yeah, I think so. And you know, and just give each other space. You know, give each other space to like mess up. You know, like I think that's like really like a reasonable expectation for everybody. Like if someone does do something that's just way out of bounds, just try to assume that they didn't mean to be, that, you know, that they had good intentions, and X card it if you feel the need. So we give and receive the X card with no judgment. But I agree. I do think there's space here to explore some really dark territory. And trust me, the town I've set up is really dark. So I do dark. I play in dark mode all the time. If you played with me, you know this. So yeah, so we'll just lean in and see how it goes. All right. Any other questions about cats before we begin? Okie doke. Let's begin character creation then. If you want to go ahead and open up the rules, go to page, let's see here. I'm not sure what PDF page it is, but it's page 21 in the text. So if you want to just flip over to that, page 21. The PDF page might match, I don't know. Any game designers watching this, make sure your real pages match up with your PDF pages. That's a good move for the way we play games today. All right, and this one does, how lucky. So, creating characters. The first step is we have to figure out your character's background. If you scroll down to the bottom of page, or kind of the second half of page 22, you're going to see it says first step background. You're going to choose one of several background packages: well-rounded, strong history, complicated history, strong community, complicated community. If you want to just take a second to read what each of those mean and how they might affect the gameplay, go ahead and do it. They give some recommendations for like, if you want to be a man born in the faith who's really like was raised right or whatever, you might choose well-rounded. If you want to be converted to the faith, for example, maybe you are what the setting calls a mountain person, which is like a Native American in this setting. If you want to be like a mountain person who converted to the faith, you might choose, they list whichever one it is, complicated. I think it's complicated history. And so, yeah, just take a look at that. Think, have a rough sketch of what you want your character to be. You can be a woman. Just know that. You are young men or young women, 18 to 20 years old-ish, in that neighborhood. You will be dogs for 3 or 4 years, and then once your dog service is over, you kind of get your kind of like pick in the community of what you want to do. Like, dog service leads to good things in the community. You get to be a steward of a community. You get to have some kind of office. If you're a woman, you get to kind of choose who you want to marry, or you get to at least like have more say in who you marry if you're a woman dog, that kind of thing. So just kind of that's the kind of arc of a dog, right? You can be a complicated dog, right? You could be a dog who maybe on the surface it's unclear why they're a dog. Maybe they don't seem particularly faithful. Maybe they seem a little raucous, or maybe they've got a bunch of sin of their own. The king of life works in mysterious ways. He may have something for you. So you troublesome dog. So just keep that in mind. But once you've chosen your package, your background package, you're then going to take note of a few things. The dice, principally. You won't be able to write this down on the sheet as I have it. Just make a little note for yourself. But basically, you have a certain number of stat dice that you get, a certain number of trait dice, and a certain number of relationship dice. Just pick your package and note down those dice that you get. Yep. Does anybody have any questions about that?
I'm going for the mountain person angle with the complicated relationship already.
Okay. I think we should probably maybe angle for variety. Like maybe if somebody else wanted to do a mountain man also, that we might want to find a good hook for why there might be 2 mountain men dogs in the same group. But otherwise, I think a variety is nice. What else is everybody else thinking?
So I'm thinking well-rounded, purely because I want to see how I react to the town before I know kind of, I don't want to influence kind of my character's background as much as like just to kind of work straight off.
Yeah, you want to keep a little sketchy. It's fine. Yeah, exactly, that's totally fine. But is it fair to say born in the faith and raised in the faith?
Absolutely, yeah.
I think that's good enough for now.
So I'm chewing over complicated history, but not necessarily a man of the mountain, still born in the faith.
Okay.
Or alternatively, a strong history, and maybe, I don't know, do you have sons of dogs?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Maybe I come from a strong dog tradition.
Oh, I like that. That's fine, because then that gives us an excuse to have people say things like, well, when your father was here back in 18-aught, he did this, right? So yeah, that's all, or your mother, or whoever was the dog.
All of them.
Yeah, I like that. That's actually really great, because in the States, at least, we have something of a sort of military class in the United States, families who are their whole family is like military people, and they're different kinds of families, right? Like they view things differently. So I like the idea of a sort of dog, a family that just has a strong tradition of serving in the dogs, because not everybody does, right?
Cool. Let's do that then.
Sounds good. So yeah, just make a little note of your dice. David, what are you thinking about?
I put down for strong history.
Okay.
And I'm not quite sure what that means, but we'll figure it out.
Good education, experience, or specialized training. I would be thinking about that when it comes to your traits, especially. You might have some particular skills, that are maybe not unique, but exceptional.
Mm-hmm. So with stats, how are we supposed to attribute
Yeah, let's do
these
that next.
dice?
So the second step is stats. So the dice that were set aside for your stats, in your case, David, just as an example, you have 13d6. You're going to divide those up between the 4 stats: acuity, body, heart, and will. If you scroll down to page 23, toward the bottom of page 23, there's a description of what each of those stats means. Acuity is perceptive, alert, educated, and so forth. Body, heart, will. So think about that. You can divide them up. I think you have to be at a minimum is 2d6. Okay, you have to be a minimum 2d6, but there is no maximum. And importantly in this game, it's a weird feature of the mechanics, but it's worth pointing out. Having a lot in that doesn't, like, for the stats, it kind of translates directly to like how good you are at that, or like how strong you are, how clever you are. But for a lot of other things you're going to be assigning dice to, it doesn't really mean like, it doesn't mean like I am good at this. It just means it's something you as a player are interested in narratively. Okay, keep that in mind. I think it's important to assign these dice with a similar thing. Like if you're interested in your character being super clever, then you put it in acuity, right? And once you've done that, just give me a thumbs up. It looks like we're all done according to the sheet. Moving right along, the next thing you'll do is traits. So traits are interesting. Traits, you have full authorial control over what the trait says on your sheet, okay? So, and they give some examples here. Like, you could have a trait that says, I used to break horses with my dad. That would be your trait. You'd type that into the field. Or you could say, I've worked with horses and I know how they think. That's another way of characterizing a similar trait. Or you could just put it as kind of a skill and put horsemanship, right? Or I'm very comfortable working with horses. However you want to convey the trait, do that. You're going to come up with, I think in the beginning, probably like 4 or 5 of them or so. Just kind of read what it says there. This is on page, I think, 24. Basically, you're going to come up with a few of them, and then you're going to assign your trait dice from your starting package to each of the traits. The important thing about the traits is you can put 1 dice or multiple dice on each trait, but if you put multiple dice, they have to match. So you can have a trait that's valued at 2d6, 1d6, 1d8. You could not have 1d4 and 1d6, or 1d8 and 1d10. That's not allowed. So you can put as many dice as you wish, but they have to be the same size of die. If you're having trouble thinking of traits, Vincent recommends that you kind of start with one thing you're good at, and then think about like something that kind of extrapolates from that. Like, okay, well, my dad taught me how to shoot guns. That's a trait. And then you might think about your relationship with your dad. My dad, I also learned how to tend farm or whatever. And then you might think of something in opposition to those things that is like a little different to those. Like, I also learned how to sing really well from my mom, right? Just think about like where they came from. They don't have to be skill sounding either. They can be something different. They can just something that you think is interesting about your character. And again, the dice you assign, more dice means More higher dice means you're more interested in seeing that happen, right? They can be negative things, right? I'm nearsighted, right? I'm nearsighted, 2d6 means you're pretty interested in that coming up in play. I'm nearsighted 1d4, that's more of like, it's a hindrance.
So are we supposed to spend all of these trait dice?
Yes, you spend all the trait ones. Breaking them up however you wish. But try to come up with about, I think 4 is a minimum traits. And if you want to talk openly about this too amongst yourselves, you can, in case you want to, I don't know, if you strive for party variety or whatever, like if that matters to you. It could be the dogs chose you to go out together for a reason, right? So, who's the cleric? Who's the fighter?
So the kind of character that I'm starting to see in myself is this kind of quite plain and kind of an average person. So I don't know why they were chosen as to be a dog, but they're of average intelligence and average general knowledge and skills, and kind of quite cold, therefore, because there's not so much to latch onto when you're interacting with them. So I'm trying to boil that down into a trait. So I'm hard to read. I wonder if there's a better way of putting that. Maybe does that make sense?
I like hard to read because, and you can see that being useful too, right? Like if somebody was confronting you about something, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Because you're looking pretty good so far, though, as I'm seeing what you guys are typing now. So that's good.
Yeah, I think I've got mine sorted.
Okay. I'm gonna grab a drink real fast while you guys wrap that up.
So there's something that I'm thinking about with my character. I'm not quite sure how to phrase this as a trait. Maybe you guys have got some ideas. It's around coming from a dog family. I think that pretty much the faith is all I've ever known. So I've got a blinkered view of the world, but it is rooted in the faith. And I guess I'm thinking that that's going to make my character a little bit dogmatic about how he sees and responds to things.
I don't know.
There's a given way.
It's almost like idealistic.
Maybe idealistic. I think I don't know any better, if you know what I mean. I've never had any broader experiences to show me that there's another way.
So you could even just put naive. It would help you and hinder. It would work well, I think. Naivety.
Yeah, I like that. Dogmatically naive. I think, yeah, nice one. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Is there like an opposite of worldly? Do you know what I mean?
Like Spartan?
I guess, yeah, and maybe it's similar to what Jag is saying with naive as well. Yeah, I'll have to think about that some more. Yeah, Spartan is kind of like how it affects them, certainly.
You have no heart.
Yeah. So I want to kind of build a trait around that as well. Like maybe they all together add up to that.
I'm looking at yours, Jag, and I think you should consider getting a trait that's like also that's like particularly sharp and competent. You know, your other ones are really good, but they're all kind of like inverted or like you know, kind of like naive or whatever. Maybe something like just a really good practical skill would be good to balance those out a little bit.
Make sure that you're putting down your dice for your traits as well there.
Some people do that after. That's fine. You can do it. You can come up with them first and then note them down.
Oh, yeah. Well, I just mean just be wary of that. I think I'm good. Yeah, I'm all right with a gun. I care for everyone. I am versed in the supernatural via my heritage. My father taught me how to survive in the wilds. I tended horses with my family when I was young.
Those all sound really good.
And my lowest stats are acuity and will, high body and heart. And my name is Nuka.
Coca-Cola.
Sure. It just means younger brother or younger sister. Fallout stole it.
David has really high trait dice. I think it's because you chose that really like the specialized background one. Right?
Yeah.
That one comes with strong dice.
Yeah, and Jag as well has a strong history.
Yeah.
So you have complicated, strong, well-rounded.
In fact, I think we'll switch those around.
Oh yeah, also I was wondering, we haven't got to relationships yet, but is a good relationship, I have a strong relationship with my home village, and then I have one specifically with my sister, the leader of the village. Do you think that's too much?
No, I think that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's fine. So, I mean, like, you can always take a blood relationship for free, basically. Like, you can always get a T6 on a blood relationship. If you want a better one, then yeah, you would name it. I think that's fine.
Okay.
Oh, a good point to bring up here, too. If you don't have a trait associated with being a dog, you must have a relationship with the dogs. Okay, that's a rule.
Oh, and it needs to be something like I am a dog.
Yeah, the trait can just be I am a dog. The relationship, if you want to do it as a relationship instead, you could just put the dogs. So. But we'll just move to relationships while we're wrapping up traits there. I'll keep going because I know you know how to do it. For relationships, you're not going to assign all your dice. Okay, you're going to just make up 1 or 2 relationships. These are just people who are important in your life. You want to have connection to. It can be pretty much anybody. And otherwise, you're going to keep your dice that you got from your package in reserve. Whatever you don't spend, you're going to put up into where it says relationship pool near the top of your character sheet. Whatever you don't spend on relationships, you're going to put up there. And you want to keep some in reserve because a big part of this game is like forming relationships with NPCs so that you can then interact with them mechanically. So.
Okay. So I bumped it down to a blood relationship with my sister then, and then I reserved 2d6.
That's perfect.
And then I've got 1.
The dogs.
The dogs.
And so you have 2d6 left in your pool?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. I'm going to wait for everyone to be done with relationships before we go to belongings, because belongings take a little bit of explanation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because that's where you just sort of like put whatever dice.
Whatever you want, yeah. Whatever you want. Size die, whatever you want. Whatever is reasonable for you to be able to carry and bring with you on a horse.
Yeah. I've got a 2 or 5 D10 horse. It's pretty crazy horse.
I think there's a max. I think you can do like, it's like just a single die of a certain size, depending on what their quality is. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think the highest quality is like D10 or something, right?
I think we'll look when we get there.
Yeah, I have the best horse in all the land.
Ben the Great.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm.
You have a donkey named Lavender.
I would never place Lavender in this kind of danger.
Everybody else set on relationships?
Yeah, I think I'm settled with mine. I've taken my dog pack, family as my relationship.
Nice, and that gets a connection. That's a good enough connection to the dogs. I'll take that. Cool. Let's talk about
So
simple
actually,
law.
my trait, dogmatically naive, that's also connected to the faith as well. So,
Yeah, I like that. I mean, yeah, you seem like you are the true believer, like the truest of true believers here in the group. So that's good.
well, that's interesting. I mean, I'm not sure that I'm a true believer in so far as that's a conscious decision I've made. It's the only thing I've known. So yeah, I think that's one of the things that's going to test out Isaac on his journey.
Yeah, I like it. It's a really important distinction. It's good. Yeah, these
You're
characters
gonna see some shit, buddy.
It's all cool. It's all cool. My dad said it was all right.
Yeah.
Let's talk about belongings. So, if you go to page, I guess it's probably 27. Go to page 27, where we talk about the 5th step, belongings. You'll see that the stewards at the temple, which is where you're trained, they make sure that you have a horse, a coat, a copy of the Book of Life, a small jar of consecrated earth, and a gun. You can choose not to have the horse or the gun if you have some reason why you don't want to. But otherwise, I think at a minimum, you've got those things. So if you want to note down your horse, your coat, your Book of Life, your jar of consecrated earth, and your gun, that's great.
Get that earth.
Your coat is super important, and you're going to want to include a little note about how it looks. In the setting, the coat is, we should talk about the coat briefly because it's really important. The way it goes is while you're being trained in Bridal Falls to become a dog, which is a several-month process, while you're doing that, your family back home, and we definitely know that Jag's family back home, they were making your coat, okay? And they use patterns and colors that are symbolically important to the family, important to the community you're from, important to your character and personality. They craft the coat for you so that when you're getting ready to graduate from dog school, the last thing they do is you get your package sent from back home and they present your long coat to you, right? And so it's an official coat of your office, right? You can use your coat to tell something about your character, right? Like, for example, if you're a convert to the church, if you're a former mountain man, your family may not have done that, right? Because they're not members of the church. And so maybe your coat had to be put together by the instructors at Bridal Falls. Maybe they took a lot of care with that. Maybe they were in a hurry and they didn't. You could theoretically have no coat. And the instructors at Bridal Falls interpret that as a sign from the King of Life, that there must be a reason why you don't have a coat. Probably means that you're meant to be given your coat by a community that you serve. Because as you move through the communities, one of the things that the communities do for you in gratitude for your ministry is they will add to your coat or repair your coat. Right? So your coat's super important. It says a lot about your character and about where you're from. So think about what it looks like in terms of color and stuff. And you'll probably want to make a little note there on the field. And you can just do text wrapping on the field if you want to have all that space. You can have other belongings too, though, not just those things. You can have almost anything that seems reasonable. A big knife, camping supplies, something like that. A nice shirt, keepsakes, whatever you think. The important thing is you're going to give them dice. If it's a normal thing, you give it a d6. If it's excellent, you give it 2d6. Excellent is if people would notice it and say, "Ooh, that's a mighty fine horse." If it's big, it gets a d8. If it's big and excellent, it gets 2d8. If it's crap, it gets a d4. If it's big and crap, it's still just a d4. So be thinking about that. Your gun is interesting. Your gun is going to get whatever dice you assign plus another d4. Okay. So if it's a big, excellent gun, it's going to be 2d8 plus 2d4, or 2d8 plus 1d4. If it's a crap gun, it's 2d4. And you can have pretty much anything you think you would have, as long as it's reasonable to fit on a horse. So. And feel free to spitball ideas here too.
So if it's really good quality for the horse, it would be 1d6 plus 1d4?
No. The d4 is, the plus 1d4 is just for guns.
Oh, just
An excellent horse would be 2d6.
An excellent horse would be 2d6. A big, excellent horse would be 2d8.
Or just a big horse would be a d8.
A big horse would be a big horse would be a d8. Right?
Okay, I think I'm good then. The shittiest thing about me is my gun.
It's good.
So all of my belongings say normal, and that looks quite plain, but the normal coat is still like a dog's coat. It's not a normal coat. You would know it was a dog's coat.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, it's a dog coat of normal quality.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you guys would put a little note about what your coat looks like too, that would be fabulous. I like that detail. We can learn. We'll talk about it in the fiction too, but I think it's good to at least be thinking about it. Like at least start thinking about it. Nothing else.
I think my coat's embroidered with the main trails and routes that my family have travelled to keep
Like a map. It's good.
the territory. Yeah, exactly. It's a map coat.
It's cool.
Yeah.
I'm thinking like the Native American designs for a throw, except that it is in leather. So it'd be like an animal that he hunted or something like that. And it is so long that it is wrapped about him a few times, and it has like pictorial things of flowers about it, and there's periodic things of beads wrapped in various patterns and stuff.
Oh, I like that. So it's like your
looks-
family made you a coat, but not like the traditional dog coat, right?
Yeah, exactly. To make it a coat, it has to be wrapped around me a few times. So every time you see me, you'll have seen a different portion of the coat as well.
Yeah, because the dog coat's like a duster, basically. Right?
Yeah, it's like a
Trench coat.
like a gunslinging thing. Yeah. And I've got a bow and arrow, a gun, and a knife. And the best things are the handcrafted things, the bow and arrow and the knife
Nice.
that I made. And I got my dope earth jar. It's gotta have I was gonna name it a bowl, but I couldn't. It has to be a jar.
All right. It's looking pretty good. Fraser, you've taken up all your slots by putting your stats on the other.
Yeah, that's fine. I don't want more things.
That you're keeping your things in check.
Yeah, I think that seems like a lot to be
Non-materials.
carrying anyway.
Yeah, that's fine. It's totally good.
Mm-hmm. If I have to, I'll move.
Some players get really
One
into
thing
this
up.
part of the game where they like, I've got a lantern, I've got a blanket, I've got this. It's a great big blanket. Which is fine. It's all good. There's no right or wrong way for this. No.
I think I'm going to bring along a smoking pipe. I think that goes quite nicely with my peacemaker. It's kind of okay. Let's chill the hell out, have a smoke, and work out what the problem is here.
If it's tobacco, you'll get a hard time from people. Like that's we don't drink alcohol.
No caffeine.
No alcohol. Only soft fruit beverages. But older people. See, here's the thing though. Older men and women do still use tobacco. It's like a minor sin, right? They get a hard time. People give them a hard time about it, but they still do it because they're old. There might be a reason why you connected to that. I think it could be a story.
Oh, I think so. In that case, it's going to be an excellent smoking pipe that's been handed down from generation in my family, and it brings the wisdom of the 4 generations of dogs, and I generally reserve it probably for communing with elderly folk.
Yeah.
Because I understand the rules
of the array of sins, like smoking, and maybe an occasional nip of like a harder drink is way down the list of like bad things, right? Fornicating is way worse. that's the one dogs care about. Not old people smoking a pipe, but it is nevertheless looked down upon. So
cool. I think I'm set.
Cool. Looking pretty good here. David, yours are still thinking of yours? Or are you good?
I'm good.
Gun, horse, and coat. No jar of earth?
The jar. I assume those things are there too.
Oh, okay. Well, you'll put them on there and give them some die size, guys.
Oh, it's a regular.
You'll have to
jar of earth.
You'll have to invoke them. Well, your jar of earth isn't going to be super good against supernatural. It's because it's only adorable.
All right. Let's see what's next on these strokes. The belongings are done. Okay, so the initiation comes next. So before we do that, I'd like to go ahead and just briefly introduce the characters by name and say whatever you want to say about them, their traits, their belongings, that kind of thing. This is mostly for the home viewing audience because we can all see as players. But I want to nevertheless go through it. And then we're going to take a 10-minute break. During that 10-minute break, I want you to think about your initiation conflict, and we'll talk about that before we go on the break. But just that's how we're going to proceed here. I'm just going to go in the order of the sheet. So, Ewan, please tell us about Brother Adam.
Brother Adam is quite. His demeanor is quite solemn. He's a dark-haired, short-haired man with stubble, and he's kind of solemn, and he's constantly looking 45-degree angle, if you see what I mean. And as far as history goes, I think he came from an average town with an average family who made him an average coat. And the coat itself is it's verging on large so that he can wrap it around himself, I think. But apart from that, he's kind of not nondescript, but average. How's that?
No, I like it. You've chosen for your traits, I'm hard to read, hard to be shaken, which I think is interesting. Your character, Adam seems almost monolithic, right? Like he is a tower of presence and immovability. I like that. We shall endeavor to find the things that breaks your monolithic nature.
Yeah. And the other trait is commanding tone, and I think that's the kind of impression that he gives. So one of his belongings is a wide-brimmed hat, so you can probably barely make his face out, and the commanding tone that comes out is probably more noticeable than most of the other traits.
I like it. Okay, good. I don't have any other questions. Does anybody else have any questions for Brother Adam? Okay. Continuing along. Thank you, Ewan. Jag, tell us about Brother Isaac, please.
So Isaac comes from a strong history of a dog family going back several generations. His immediate family is quite large. We're pushing double figures of brothers and sisters, and he is very much on the younger side of that. He's the runt of the family, quite often easily overlooked, but never feeling unloved. He is, appearance-wise, he's quite fresh-faced and youthful-looking, even for a dog. But he's been sent out on his travels with a beautifully embroidered coat made by his family, which represents the territories that several generations have kept in line with the faith. He's quite naive in some ways. The faith is pretty much all he's known. It's been all-consuming in his upbringing, and while it's a good dog family, there's not been particularly a lot of conflict. It's dealt with quite well by the heads of the family. He's quite often is seen as the peacemaker amongst his brothers and sisters. He's come to know that he can be quite open and frank. He wears his emotions on his sleeve by and large, and in that respect, he's equally guileless in the way that he approaches situations.
You have your smoking pipe, a 2D6 smoking pipe, which means it's an excellent smoking pipe. I'm just to put a fine point on that. We discussed it a little bit earlier, but was that a gift from like one of the elders in your family, or where did that come from?
Yeah, so a tradition in the family for the last 3 generations has been the grandfather would hand down a pipe to the youngest after skipping a generation, and that's something that is a little family tradition that we've developed over the last kind of 60 years. So.
I love it. I don't have any other questions. Any other questions about Brother Isaac?
Can I just ask about your guileless trait? Is it like he's quick to offer his honest opinion, that kind of thing?
I don't know about necessarily quick to offer his opinion. I think that will come out in play, to be honest. I think that more it's that he's not going to try and be deceitful or try and worm a situation, if you like. I don't think he's gonna be cunning in that regard.
Nice. Any other questions?
We'll see how it comes out.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. David, please tell us about brother or sister Ehud. I'm not sure how it's pronounced.
It's a brother.
Okay.
Ehud. So, Brother Ehud is raised by only his father. His mother died in childbirth for him, so he's the only child. So what that meant for him is he took on a lot of the womanly work that you would find in the household, but he also helped his father with his craft, and his father is a gunsmith. So that means that he has a revolver and he has a rifle. The revolver was supplied by the dogs. The rifle he brought, but he has managed to get them in excellent working condition. And what him and his father would do every night after dinner is they would read the good book together. So when it came to be that Brother Ehud had the call to become a dog, his father supported him as best he could, and saved up pieces of like leather, gun leather, and I think that Ehud may have helped him do some of the stitching before he left, and then his father did the best that he could to finish out this coat. And it's just I mean, that gun leather is really, really thick. Like it's a really thick, stiff, kind of ugly coat. And it's probably really hot, so I don't know how often Ehud will be wearing it, but when he does wear it, it's rather imposing.
A question. So you grew up motherless, which is one of your traits, which is super interesting. I'll be interested to see how that comes out in play. But does that mean there were not many other women folk in your family either? Like there were no grandmothers and aunts either?
I don't think that there were where we were. I think my father learned his trade of being a gunsmith and moved to a new community because you can only really support one gunsmith per community, and married someone there. And then when she died, like he was left fairly. I mean, he's got family out there in the world, but none were in the place where we grew up.
Not nearby. So my other question I have then is, this may come out in play, but I'm wondering, like, what your character's opinions of the normal division between men and women in the community are. Like, do you take that as seriously as the rest of the faithful do? You can think about it if you don't know yet, but it's something to put out there.
Yeah, I mean, I expect I don't, but I probably kind of wear that belief with a bit of shame because I was having to do the womanly work, and I probably don't advertise that.
Oh, so you're not like, oh, I can get in the kitchen and roll my sleeves up. It's no big deal. You like, it was a shameful thing. Okay, interesting.
Well, it would be for anyone else, like,
I see.
or around anyone else. Like at home, it's normal, but with anyone else, I'd just kind of watch and
yourself. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I'm into that. Any other questions about Brother Ehud? Okay. Let's keep going to Brother Nuka. Please tell us about Nuka.
So Nuka, I'm envisioning, I think, I don't know, in this history anyway, I think there has already been a lot of trade between Native Americans and all that kind of stuff. And I think that has already weighed on that populace. Like they are rapidly integrating, like they're like losing some of their culture and taking some of it in, and all of that is becoming synonymous. And I think Nuka was the first kid to be born from a woman from the village and a man from somewhere else. So he kind of like passes for normal folk, but because of that, his heritage gets a little bit erased because he doesn't look like what they describe as Native American. And he has a black, it's kind of like a shawl or a throw or whatever that is very long and it wraps around him. And it is embroidered and has these patterns of things that remind him of home. But I imagine them in the same color as what the material is. So you'd actually have to like come in, inspect and look at it. It's not like flamboyantly brandished or anything like that. It's something that is for him and his eyes. And if others come and look at it, then that's fine. But it's not something that he's like broadcasting. And he was raised in the village for a time, but then I think the father insisted that he get a good education, and I think the parents sort of like co-parented, so he's in and out of both cultures. So he's quite good at like my father taught me how to survive in the wilds, but it's only 2d4, so he's like okay at it. And he's all right with a gun, which is 1d10, so not 2d10. So all of these things, he's sort of like in and out of both cultures, basically. Yeah, and I tended horses with my family's 2d4, so it's still like okay. I tried to make everything sort of just okay. Whereas the most interesting thing I have is 2d6. I am versed in the supernatural via my heritage. So I think he kind of got really interested in that and delved into it. And that's sort of like his hook for the culture. And I think in some way that is going to be integrated into his what he wears on that cloak, like maybe legends and stuff.
Yeah, well, that's super interesting because something I think that might be worth pointing out in this setting, and we can talk about it, is there are some people among the faithful who believe that the mountain people, which were your from. We call them the mountain people. They're not Native American because it's not technically America. The mountain people were, there are some people who believe that the mountain people were like an ancient form of the faithful who lost their way, right? And so our job is to redeem them, to save them. And it kind of sounds like what your people are going through. There are other people in the faithful who believe the mountain people are just openly wicked, and they worship demons and pagan spirits, and therefore are wicked. And so, as the book notes, your relationship and your opinion of mountain people might be informed by how difficult the time you have with the local mountain people, right? So I'd be curious to find out, like, I mean, the interesting thing about you being versed in supernatural things is you're kind of saying, I am versed in like demonic wickedness, right? I mean,
yeah, like he's
right.
He's got like he's a dog, so he has that faith, and then he also has the faith of his own people. It's like both of them he's quite good at, because that's the only thing that I took very well in dice. And then also he's a dog, so yeah, I like the idea of him trying to like struggle with the truth between.
Well, of course, at Bridal Falls, at the training center, they would, your interest and knowledge of your people's demonic wickedness would be, it would be viewed as like a tool for you to use to stop it, right? Not to raise it up or elevate it, right? So
yeah, it's like weaponized knowledge.
Weaponized, exactly. Turning the tables, right? Fighting fire with fire. Good. I don't have any other questions about Brother Nuka. Does anybody else?
I do. Do you you said that your heritage can sometimes be forgotten or erased, and I'm wondering what the relationship between the dogs is in that respect. Like, are you open about your heritage, or is it kind of something we have to find out? And if so, is there is there a chance that some people might not be okay with it, or what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's polarizing in the dogs. Like, I think the reason why he was ultimately accepted in the dogs is because he has that knowledge of his heritage, and they wanted to weaponize it and disseminate that practices throughout. And that's a big point of contention for him. And then I think probably naturally the more open-minded people are going to accept him, and other people are going to be like, he's a demon that isn't allowed in the dogs, kind of thing. And he's approaching that, like, he approaches everybody with love and respect, and I think some people will like that as well. So I think he's probably going to be divisive and polarizing for everybody in the organization.
But he's quite open about it with the between the four of us, I suppose, as well.
Yeah, I think all of the dogs would know, and then particularly with you guys, if it ever rose up, then yeah, he would be open for it. And I have a D10 and I care for everyone, so I'm definitely going to be playing into that. Try to be open about everything.
Great. Well, let's talk about your initiation, your accomplishment. So I'm going to go to each of you in turn when we get back from the break. And I'm going to call on you to say something that you hope your character accomplished during initiation, which is to say what you hope they accomplished while they were at the dog training facility in Bridal Falls. If you want to turn to page 28 of the PDF, just to kind of see some examples here. I hope that my character won distinction in the eyes of the teacher of scripture. Or, I hope that my character overcame his fear of blood. I hope my character exorcised a demon. I hope my character learned how to curb her temper, and so on. We're going to say what you hope you accomplished. We're going to zoom in really closely and have a conflict about it. That conflict might be against a person. It might be against the environment. It might, if you're exercising a demon, it might be the demon. Whatever. But in any case, we're going to have a little scene. It's our chance to see how the mechanics work. And at the end, you're going to get another trait associated with how that went. Okay? So think about that. We're going to come back and do that. We'll come back in 10 minutes, which would be about 21 after the hour. Okay? Fraser in the Slack, Garrett is like, I want to know what happened.
About the game?
Yeah, about Dungeon World, yeah.
Yeah, you'll never know, even though you were a major part of it.
He watches every video, so he will know once it goes up. But,
Oh, well, you'll suit it up.
yeah, he watches every single one of them. So, my partner's making coffee, and I'm putting that too. Right.
Yeah, I made some more tea. I just got some David's tea in, and I got some white chocolate chai. It's amazing.
I feel like white chocolate is going to be like a Splatfest thing, like coming up, because
At some
it's
point,
a controversial thing, right? Like white chocolate ? It'll be yes or no.
Yeah. Like what kind of chocolate you like for reals, though. Although now Marina would just like destroy that, I think. Do you want actual chocolate or white chocolate?
I'm excited for the next Splatfest. I missed the last one, so
Yeah, I didn't get in on that one at all.
I didn't either. I mean, I got my 2 little
October.
snails because I picked a side, but that was it.
Oh, really? Yeah. I got yeah, it's October 7th, so next weekend, right?
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
All right,
it
looks like
was
we're all back. So let's talk about accomplishments. I'm going in the order of the sheet again. Let's go reverse order of the sheet. How about that? Brother Nuka,
Sure.
what do you hope to accomplish at Bridal Falls?
In like a bridge between both cultures is what I was hoping for, even if it's like a tenuous thing. But I think it's rooted in maybe Nuka dealt with a spirit in a non-aggressive manner, and then it actually like perhaps worked, and that was like the bridge that they needed. Like, oh, you don't have to just like be a huge asshole to spirits to get rid of them, or like, you know.
How interesting. Okay, so well, you haven't necessarily accomplished this, but I like that.
Oh, okay.
So what I'm hearing is like you hope that you were able to banish a spirit or a demon in a way that was not hostile to the spirit. That's super interesting, right?
Yeah, like I'm thinking Sixth Sense, where like some spirits are just nice and want you to talk to their grandmother, and other spirits are really mean and crazy and stuff. But but in their mind, they think every spirit is the mean, crazy ones. Whereas my version is it encompasses many different kinds of spirits and how to deal with them.
So let's frame this up. I feel like the pivotal moment here is, I think there's an old shed out back of the main training facility building, right? They keep various, they don't keep much of anything anymore, but they used to keep like supplies and things in this old shed. And one of the things that they sometimes do is they bring initiates to this old shed because the shed is believed to be haunted by a ghost or a demon of some sort. And the idea is spend the night in the shed to see if you can, to see if your soul is intact or whatever. But what you're going to do is try to coax that spirit to just gently leave, right? Is that the idea? Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, like instead of haunting the shed, and it becomes like a ritualistic thing where all the students go in and try to survive the night. Instead, I'd like to try to see what it needs and pass it on.
Yeah, let's just pick up with that then. So I think it's nighttime. I think there are a couple of skeptical instructors there, right? A couple of skeptical people from the training facility who are wanting to see how you handle yourself here in this old shed. And what's your approach? That'll determine how our conflict starts.
I think that I think the most interesting thing would be is if he left his whatchamacallit gun behind, and like he'll still take his knife, but I think the things that are associated with the dogs he'll leave behind, so that it's like a signal that he's not gonna be the same as everybody else who comes to like survive / maybe terrorize this entity.
And are you going to be basically just like essentially kind of talking to it to get it to convince it to leave, or communicating in whatever way you communicate? Is that the idea?
Yeah, I think it'll look like a meditation in which he like opens his mind and then like, so it's sort of like him asking for consent first and not making aggressive moves and not bringing aggressive things with him.
Okay, I like that. So it sounds like you're going to be rolling. You're going to be rolling non-physical to start here. That's acuity plus heart. Okay. And then if you think that a trait would figure into this initial disposition, this is the time to use a trait. And so if we look at your traits, I'm being really deliberate here just because it's our first time. If you look at your traits, you have the dogs, a strong relationship with your home community, your home village, your sister. You can maybe make a case that, like, you know, something to do with your community is kind of at stake here, or factors in if you wanted to, because this kind of affects like the dog's opinion of them, right? If you want to make that case.
Yeah.
If it's not that strong to you, you don't have to, but that's just
Yeah,
one
like
idea. That's one idea of how you might proceed.
I think it's most important to him to be a support structure for the bridge between the communities. So I think that makes sense.
In which case you'll roll your heart plus acuity plus whatever you have listed for that trait. That's 2d8. So we look at your heart and acuity. Basically 8d6 and 2d8 is what you're rolling on the sheet.
Okay.
Right. And I roll 46 and 40-10.
Okay.
Choose blue. And of course, they're not showing it. They're on two different sides. I wonder if there's a way you can change that.
Oh, that's weird.
They're
Yeah.
on different lines. Oh, I did pips too. It's okay. I'll just drag mine. I didn't actually do very well. You might have the
Yeah, I've got lucky on that.
Oh, I accidentally rerolled one. Fuck. It was a 6. It was a 6. Just it was a 6. If you double click, they reroll.
Yeah.
Okay, so
You're still missing the 2 5s, right?
Oh yeah, sorry.
Unless you don't want them, I'll take them.
No, I did okay. I did okay. 6 5 5 4 2 2. Okay, so it sounds like maybe you're starting because you described yourself going inside and kind of going into this like meditative state. So the way this works is on your turn you do a raise, okay, which is kind of like an attack, for lack of a better word. You're going to push forward 2 dice as your raise, and we're interested in the total, okay? And then you narrate what that raise means. So your dice stand in for your narration and your actual raise. So you push them forward, you say, this is me going in and beginning my meditation or whatever, right? And then whoever is the target of your raise has to see, okay? And you can see with as many dice as you need to see. But if you see with 3 or more, then basically you kind of lose that exchange, right? And we get to narrate how basically that part of your thing was successful. Okay? If you see with 2 dice, it's a basic block, right? I just block it, and that's that. If I see with 1 die, that's not good for you. That's a reverse. If I see with 1 die, I reverse it, and not only do I defeat you in that exchange, but also I get to use that die for my raise. So the die does not go away. I get to reverse it and then use it again. So
okay, I'm going to use a 6 then, and then that means that you'll have to use one of your stronger die to block it.
Yeah,
so I think that's a good move, right?
What are you pushing forward?
6.
Oh yeah, is that 2 dice? Did you push forward 2 dice?
Just 1 die, a 6.
A raise is always 2. So.
Oh, okay. Then I'll do 2 6s, yeah. So then you'll have to use higher stuff. So I'll just drag it there.
Sounds good. And then just narrate. Give us your move. What does it look like?
Okay, so I think what he does is he goes into a kneeling position, and he actually maybe it's the first time he even removes his coat.
Mhm.
Or actually, maybe I'll do that later because then I can use the coat dice, right?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can. You can always use a trait or a relation, a trait or a belonging as part of your raise or see.
Okay. And when I do that, then I bring in the die and roll it, though, right?
Add them to the pool. Yeah.
Okay, and I can even do that on my first one?
Yes, you can.
Oh, okay.
You
So maybe
can
I'll do that.
Yeah, if you want to do that, go for it.
Yeah, so what I'll do then is I'll go into a kneeling position, and I think for the first time that he is out in public, he actually removes his coat, and then he lays it out on the floor, and what the viewer sees in the movie is that like some sections of this are stories of other ghosts that he knows. So then he literally says, "Tell me your story."
Nice. Do you want to go ahead and roll your coat dice?
Yeah, so that is 2d6. So if I put in 2d6 and submit, it'll add it, right? It won't.
It will. Yeah.
Okay, good. Nice. Okay, so yeah, I'll put forward my two strongest die, the 2 6s.
Great. I will. So my high die is actually a 6 there, so I can't block it outright. I would have to take Fallout, and if I take Fallout, I actually that actually inures to your benefit in the future if I do that.
Well,
And so, yeah.
I thought if you played 2 dice, then you could block it, couldn't you? Because you could do a 10 and like a 2 or something.
No, that's not the 10. It's the 6. I accidentally.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
I will, but I'll go ahead and just take it. So I push forward. I push forward 6, 5, and 2 for a total. My C is 13. So I do yield. So basically, what this looks like is you go in and you like lay out your thing, and you're like, "Tell me your story," right? Mm-hmm. I think like as soon as you go in, like I think it's an old tool shed, and like there's a bench and like some things hanging on the wall, and they're like rattling. Right? Like the walls are rattling, the tools are rattling when you walk in. Clearly some kind of supernatural activity. And as soon as you lay the code out and you say that, tell me your story, that rattling begins to like die down, right? There's it's a gentle, like maybe just a couple of little tools kind of bopping around, but otherwise it just gets really, really still and calm. Now it's my turn to raise. So we can just discard all these dice. But I have 3 Fallout dice, which we'll take care of in a minute. I actually can't win, so I'm just interested in playing the South's theme. So I'll raise with 9, and basically you've laid out the coat, and the ghost, you almost feel like a very gentle, like caress on the back of your hands, right? Very gentle, like it's there, you can feel it. But then that caress becomes like a force seizing your hands. It's like a really, really strong, painful handshake, right? Like your hand is being shaken, real, like almost like twisting up your fingers a little bit, right? I'm not quite escalating I might be escalating to physical. I think I am escalating to physical. Oh, I can't do that as a spirit, but that's what I'm doing, or as in this context. But that's my move.
Okay. Does that mean I roll my body as well? If it's
unless you want to respond, just continue responding with verbal, which you can because you got plenty of dice. So.
Okay, cool. Oh yeah, if I needed the die, then I would escalate it. Right. It always continues to escalate. Right. Okay. A 9. So I'll play two 5s to make it a 10. And I think what that looks like, I don't know, it seems kind of cheesy, but what I wanted to do is like manipulate the hands so that it's like as if he was maneuvering a person, into like an actual like hug, so that if the person was there, it would be embracing them.
Nice. I yield. I give.
So,
And I think you feel like a sort of there's like a momentary like warmth, like really momentary, like a gust of hot air around your body, but then nothing, and the last little like rattling tools like just stop. And one of your instructors is standing in the doorway watching all this. You get to write your trait down. I have some fallout that I'll cope with, and I'll catch up with you about that in a minute. But for now, you get a trait at D6 that is reflected in this outcome, right? So, like you write it however you wish, but it should be connected to this outcome.
is it too weird if when I like defeat it or whatever, if it actually like writes its story on my coat?
You can, yeah, I think it's okay. If you, that might be like a really heavy supernatural, but it's up to you.
Yeah.
Maybe you just stitch the story onto your coat later.
Okay. Okay. It would have been cool though. Okay. I don't know what would be a trait.
We'll be thinking about it. I'm gonna go to the next person. So.
Okay.
And I have 3 fallout dice, so I'm making note of that. Just to roll it later. Okie doke. Let's move on. I'm going to clear these dice. I do get a high too, since I you know what I do with a 2. But. All right. Let's clear these. Brother Ehud, what do you hope to accomplish?
Something entirely more mundane.
Okay.
I hope that, like, I just hope to kind of walk away from this without exposing myself as like for my feminine like knowledge and traits.
Oh, good. That's interesting. Let's make it a little bit more. Let's make the stakes a little more direct. Like maybe there was. So maybe it's just in the framing. So basically, what you hope to accomplish is to just keep your secret that you. Like just to keep your secret that you were kind of like the woman of the house, basically, right?
Yeah, and I think like what that might look like is a scene where somebody comes to my room and I'm doing like sewing work and things.
Okay,
like that.
I like it. Yeah, that's good. All right. This is going to be. I think this should be a really obnoxious young dog. We'll name that obnoxious young dog brother. Do we have an Aaron? Let's do Brother Aaron. He is, I don't know, whatever he is, he's filled with toxic masculinity. So we'll figure him out as we get there. But he, let's do our stuff. I get 46 and 4010 as always, and you get acuity and heart. Assuming we're just talking here, I think I'm going to be the aggressor. Though I think I want to go first.
Okay.
I got a pretty good roll, so I'm looking pretty good. Yeah, let's just start with talking. So go ahead and roll acuity and heart.
Okay.
And any traits if you think that would, or any relationships if you think that makes sense. If you can kind of justify the relationship being at stake or implicated in some way.
No, but I might bring something in later.
Sure. Yeah, sounds good. All right, let's get those dice on the table and see how that goes.
Okay, I need to change my color. And looks like I have 8 D6.
Okay. Good. Just drag those out.
It's a lot of ones.
That's a lot of ones.
I'll pray for you, brother.
All right, so you said you were going to take lead on this?
Yeah. So straight away, like in terms of the numbers, not looking good for you, right? So you like, just as a sort of a rules teaching thing here, if you feel like you're not going to win, and you feel like the other guy's got the upper hand, you can choose to go ahead and give, and you kind of get to give on your own terms, right, in terms of the fiction. But importantly, you get to keep your high die. So like, you get to keep whatever your remaining die, the value of that die for a future conflict associated with what just happened here. Okay.
Okay.
So, but I'm opening big. I'm going straight for it. Okay.
Okay.
Actually, no, I'm not. I'm going.
Oh, also, I'm wondering, is it true that if you do try to go for it and fail, you still get a trait, but it's a bad trait, right? Like if you lose this conflict?
Oh, yeah. Well, it just affects the way you editorialize it, right? I mean, yeah, it could be negative in nature. I'm going to push forward in 15, and basically, Brother Aaron comes in. He comes in and he looks. He sees you. Like, where do we see you? What are you doing?
I'm sitting on my cot, and I'm like sewing my underclothes.
And he comes in there and he's like, "Boy, you sure do have a way with needles, Brother Ehud. You got such small, fine hands to do that fine work. Color me impressed, Brother Ehud."
And I just kind of look up at him, like I don't move my head, I just move my eyes. And my bed is kind of like ruffled, and I'm going to just like pull the covers back, and underneath I want my rifle to be sitting there, and I want to bring that into the scene.
All right, awesome. So go ahead and roll that.
So I roll all the rifle die.
Yeah, just all the dice you have for your rifle.
All right, let's see if I can pull this out here.
But interestingly, though, if you don't intend to shoot it, it might not. Well, no, let's just go with it. Let's just go with it, especially if the impressiveness of it is important. Go with that.
All right, and I'm still green. All right,
that's better. Yeah, that's good.
There we go. So you're with 15 right now.
Yeah. How'd you end up with a 9? What's your size?
I don't know. I must have rolled dice wrong.
I think you rolled the dice wrong.
Yeah, I can't get a 9.
That's not possible.
Yeah, we'll just move those away. I guess those were 10s.
Those were 10s, I think. That you rolled. Yeah, because you put it in the box before the thing.
Oh.
1d8, 2d8.
Let's try that again. Yeah, that was lame.
Yeah. Well, so how do you
the
want
best
this
I can
to
do
go?
is 12. So I can't
yeah,
beat. I cannot.
You can raise as many dice as you wish, but yeah, you're going to take Fallout and probably not going to win either. So if you want to just yield and hold your 6, you can.
So what happens if I raise 3 dice to beat?
3 or more, and you're going to take Fallout. And Fallout is you're going to roll a number of d4s at the end. And if you look at the reference sheet, there's a little like table of like what types of Fallout you can get. This is likely going to be short-term Fallout, and basically it's just it can change the size of your dice in a negative way, force you to take some d4s, that kind of thing.
Mm.
It's not terrible consequences, but you lose, and you also if you end up losing, especially, it's just kind of a double whammy.
Okay. I guess I'll yield. I don't know.
So if you're going to yield, just on your character sheet, write the number 6 under follow-up conflicts, and you can note that however you wish. Like maybe it's a conflict related to your masculinity or something.
Okay.
But you get to yield on your own terms. So you lose the stakes, which is it's going to get around that you do women's work, but you at least get to determine the character of how this gets moved, or like how this gets spoken around.
Okay. Yeah. So I uncover the rifle, and it's disassembled right now, and I'm like, yeah, you'd be surprised how often the two kind of work overlap. The small, delicate handlings, and then I start to like reassemble the rifle. I'm just like, we got to do what we got to do to survive in this world. Sometimes that means sewing. Sometimes that means shooting.
And he kind of like smiles and says, he's like, well, I guess that's just the way it has to be sometimes. Just, you know, I'm not completely surprised that you were engaged in woman's work, Ehud, because you got a pretty look about you. And he kind of smiles, you know, just being a jerk. And he's gonna go and basically, like, you know, tell other people about you, like doing, you know, being good with needlework and stuff like that. But there's the also, you know, he'll also tell the story of, like, you know, about the gun and stuff and that kind of thing. So it'll be kind of characterized in that way. That should inform your trait, okay? Like however you write it.
So I have to write a trait now.
At a d6, yeah.
1d6 trait.
So the insult is like, that guy's so attractive, he sews.
Or it could be something, I'm thinking, you know, to me it sounds like it's something like, you know, sometimes you got to do what you got to do, or everyone pitches in, or something like that. I don't know. The intersection between men's work and women's work. But you get your 6. So just editorialize it however you, based off how the scene went, whatever you think.
Okay.
Ain't no women's work or men's work, it's just work.
Brother Isaac, what do you hope to accomplish at Bridal Falls?
So I think that Brother Isaac has been quite closeted in a large family, and hasn't really needed to stand out on his own 2 feet. He's always had people to sort of fall back on and support him. So I think that Isaac wants to find his own independence and confidence in his ability to stand on his own without relying on others.
So you want to gain a measure of independence. I like that. What kind of scene do you think? How would we frame that up? What kind of conflict?
I think, I mean, it could be something like spending a few nights out in the wilderness, fending for himself.
I like that. That's good. Yeah, let's go with that. So I think, yeah, maybe you have to, maybe there's been like rumors of like robbers in the area, and it's a sort of all hands on deck thing. And so they've posted watches at night, and the initiate dogs are expected to stand watch, right? And I think the conflict is going to be not like between you and some robbers. The conflict, I think, is going to be like you kind of being like on your own at night with no backup, basically, like just, you know, and I think I'm going to play like the environment, and things maybe trying to give you the willies, things challenging your you know, your character or whatever. So I like that. I think that's good.
That's cool. Yeah.
Jason playing horror, great.
Well, we'll see, but these aren't very long scenes. But so I'm going to get my roll down. I got pretty good. And we're going to, we'll just start with, I don't know if acuity and heart makes any sense. Maybe it could be like more like go straight to physical, because you're kind of like, it's like your nerve, your constitution, possibly.
Maybe. So what would that be? Is that acuity and will?
I can't recall. Let's look at the reference sheet. Physical is body and heart. I don't think there's any conversations that are going to happen here. So.
No. And this is the only time that I'd be able to draw a relationship in, is that right?
Yes, if you can kind of justify it, if you think the relationship is implicated or at stake.
So it's perhaps a little bit kind of pushing it a bit in the wrong way, I guess. For me to draw on the my relationship with my dog pack, my family, when I'm trying to stand on my own. Maybe the memory of it is the thing that gives me heart when I know that I'm going out there on my own.
That's good. Yeah, I think that's good. Like, what would Uncle Ebenezer do or whatever? Right? Yeah, that's great. Right, you can draw that as well.
So 76 and 2d8.
Looks pretty good.
Oh yeah, there's some nice dice in there.
So I think you're on watch. I think these watches take place. I think it basically involves you kind of like going out a little ways, maybe an eighth of a mile or so, like away from the actual like training facility, kind of on the outskirts of Bridal Falls, and just setting up camp. You know, like you build a little fire, you've got a little tent, you're kind of by yourself, and if you see any trouble, you hear of any trouble, you are not to engage. You are to immediately run back and tell someone. Right? But if you immediately run back and tell someone that the first like sign of trouble, or the first little rustle of a push, that could be a problem. Right? If it turns out there was nothing there, so you have to be reasonably confident, I think. And how do you pass the time? What kind of things do you do while you're sitting around the fire?
I am cleaning my pipe, getting my pipe ready to. I think the pipe is my a bit like my rosary beads. It's the thing that I can occupy my hands with, and it allows me to focus my thoughts on all the amazing things that my family have done in the generations that have gone before me.
What's the most beautiful thing you see here at night under the moonlight, your firelight in the tree?
I think that there's on one of the trees up ahead. There's just an owl sitting on a tree branch, watching for prey and waiting for the right moment to kind of just swoop. But it's incredibly patient, and it's just standing on a branch. It knows what it wants to do. It knows what it needs to do, and there's something about its calmness that is spiriting for me. It's all on its own, just like I am.
Indeed. I'll raise with 12. A cold wind blows through, and actually causes your fire to flicker and sends a chill down your spine.
I don't hear anything unusual. It's just the wind. I pull my coat closer to. And I pat it around for my tobacco and a flint, something that I can get ready in case I need to kind of steel my nose with a bit of a smoke. But yeah.
Nice. What are you pushing forward? 2 6s?
Yes. Can I bring my coat into that?
Oh, sure. Yeah, if you want to get that roll, yeah, go for it. Cool.
Yeah, I'll match that with 2 6s.
Okay, awesome. It's your raise.
This becomes a maths puzzle, isn't it?
Yeah, there's a strategy. I mean, there's a game that's part of it.
I will go with 11. Where's it gone? Oh, it's not a 7. Didn't I have a 7 there?
Oh, you may have. If you if you accidentally double click it, it re-rolls it. So maybe if we click save that roll.
Yeah, I think I must have done. But
You can
I
have.
think
Yeah,
that was
I trust you. 7's fine.
and then a 4. So I'll take that to 11.
Okay. That's tricky. So basically, quickly, what was your move? You just like.
Yeah, I pull my coat tighter, and I can feel the embroidered on the inside. It's I can feel the heavy stitching that maps out the roots that we're in, and that kind of reminds me of where I've come from.
Yeah. And I block with the 13, and basically, you feel a little critter inside your coat, a little creepy crawly critter, a centipede, a scorpion maybe, and it causes you to freak out a little bit. You have to fling your coat open and bat it away. And my raise is going to be 15. You hear in not too far distance the howl of a wolf.
I look up, and I'm still kind of my hands are still kind of playing with the smoking pipe. I'm looking up, and the owl is still there, and it's not flinched at all. And as I see that it is holding its nerve there, I remember passages from the Book of Life that talk about the metaphors of the wolf, and how we shouldn't be afraid of the wolf in the night. And this gives me some resolve to push back.
And yet, if you answer with 3, I still win the exchange, which means
yes. Yeah.
If you're introducing the Book of Life, couldn't you roll that and then try to block with 2?
I still won't be able to match 15 with 2 dice from what I've got.
Oh yeah, that's true. Get your D8s going. Where are they at?
I think
Peacemaker.
So the only consequence of me matching that with 3 dice is I'll take some fallout. Is that right?
Yeah, you take some fallout, but the conflict continues. So.
Yeah. Okay, let's do that. So I will. I'm getting a little bit jittery at this point, but my mom and my dad always said that if ever there is some doubt, then turn to the Book of Life, and I will find peace. And that's what I'm clinging on to. And just as I'm kind of reciting this in my mind, the owl starts spreading its wings, almost as if it's about to fly off.
Right. Yeah, that's good. He heard a wolf. He's out of here.
Yeah. It's not gone yet. But it's thinking about it, and so am I.
Indeed, love it. Your raise.
I'm just going to go for it. Yeah. That's overkill. But can you add more stuff?
I can't add any more dice. So yeah, you win. You just have to push it forward and narrate how you kind of decisively win here.
So I think that I've projected myself onto this owl that I've seen, and in some ways I've connected with that. And when we were playing on the farmstead where the family grew up, every so often we'd pretend to be animals and do calling, animal calls to each other, and so to distract myself from the wolf howl, I start hooting like an owl, calling like an owl, and just to try and engage that in a dialogue. It's not obviously going to talk to me, but it gives me enough for distraction, I think.
I like it. And you'll last the whole night with not letting your nerves get the best of you. Go ahead and write a d6 trait associated with that accomplishment.
Okay, awesome.
And you do get some fallout though. For your
Yes.
fallout, you're going to roll. Let's see. We said it was really. I don't know if I don't think it was like physical in the fallout sense. So just roll. Let's say. Just roll d4s. Just roll 3d4. I don't think it was like physical in the fallout sense. So you'll roll 3d4s, and we'll resolve that in a minute. We'll come back to it. We'll go ahead and do.
So
Brother
7 in total. 1, 3, 3.
Okay, so we're interested in the 2 3s. So just remember that.
Okay.
All right, Brother Adam. What would you hope to accomplish?
In a way, it's the opposite of Isaac, I suppose. I hope that Adam kind of learns to rely. It's either rely or depend on others, or to like let others take the lead. Not that he's like the leader as much as if there's a problem, then I think he would just go and sort it, and it would take a degree of openness for him to allow somebody else to take that opportunity.
I like it. Yeah, that's good. Perhaps maybe we can frame it up and say that maybe you're doing a little bit of scouting with Brother Clarence. Okay, Brother Clarence is a bit of a soft, toe-headed young brother. He has he's not particularly capable. He's kind of very sheltered in his life, and I think basically one of the things you do as part of your training is you just do like kind of basic scouting and wilderness survival type things, right?
Yeah.
And so I think what you're doing is you're trying to find an injured deer. Okay, that's your task. A deer got shot, but it managed to get away, but it's moving pretty slowly. And if you can go and retrieve it, that's good eating. And so that's what's going on. And Brother Clarence, this is probably something you're really good at, and you can just go do it, right? It's no big deal. But Brother Clarence wants to kind of, he wants to come back with the deer. He wants to take the lead, right? He wants to show what he can do to the elders. So I'm going to roll my dice. And I think basically all of my moves are going to be just like Brother Clarence being like deeply incompetent, and you kind of like having to just accept that if you wish, right? So
yeah,
succeeding for you is kind of gently getting him to do the right thing, right?
Yeah, I think I'll probably play him in that he doesn't want to succeed this conflict,
Right.
And maybe we can play it out to see whether he gives. If you see what I mean?
Oh yeah, I think that. Oh yeah, I kind of like that. That kind of makes sense. Well, let's just roll your dice and see how it goes.
Yeah. Do you think
we'll start with talking? I think.
Cool. Okay. Yeah.
And then relationship-wise, I'll leave that on you. What do you think?
Okay. No, I don't think there's anything. So what's talking? Acuity in heart. Okay. 7d6. All right. I'll drag them down here, shall I?
Sure. Oh, I think I changed one of those 1s and 2 to 6. I hate that feature that it like rerolls die. Tell Shane to turn that off. That's like really not good.
Okay.
Okay. So let's. I want to make sure our stakes are really clear here.
Yeah.
So stakes are going to be. Stakes are: do you learn something about yourself, or do you learn how to like become a giving person, I guess, or whatever,
Yeah.
right? Or do you just continue being like strong, assertive, monolithic brother Adam, right?
Yeah.
I think we should just play to that rather than trying to do like a reverse thing, because I don't think
Okay.
it's going to be. I think it'll be awkward.
Okay.
So I'll open up. I think Brother Clarence would push up his 2 highest dice straight away, and so I raise with 12, and I say, Brother Adam, I just want you to know, you guys are like walking through the scrub, right? It's daytime. You're walking through the scrub, and like there's some little low trees or whatever, and he's just like talking really loudly, right? He's like, I'm so excited you decided to take me with you, Brother Adam, to find that deer. I just know I'm not going to let you down. I am not going to let you down. And it's just like really loud right now, and clumping around. And eventually he takes out like a kazoo for some reason, like to keep himself busy. Show us your giving nature or not, Brother Adam.
I think I will block with the 12, and he's. I think we walk for quite a long time, and I think Adam is well aware that they could have gone straight to the deer if they had done everything right, but instead he's just kind of circling around the area, waiting for like a moment of peace from Clarence, and when there is one, he'll kind of he'll put his fingers up to his lips and just to like try and get a pause from Clarence.
Good, yeah. So you didn't like chastise him or scold him. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, he's waiting.
All right, awesome. You're raised.
So I think, yeah, it's interesting. Like I've got very few dice compared to you, so I'm just going to go out with a 7, and
unless you've got traits or tools.
Yeah. And he patiently says, so he puts his fingers up to his lips and waits for a pause from Clarence, and just says, "What do you see?" And he's implying that there is something for Clarence to spot.
Right.
You know, like there's probably some blood on the floor, or you know, like a broken branch nearby. He's just saying, "What do you see?"
Yeah. I think it's maybe something even kind of obvious, like a trail of blood, broken branch, right? And I meet and I say, Clarence is just looking out there. He's looking, he's scanning the horizon, you know, and like the blood's right there, the branch is right there, right? And he's just he's like, I don't know, I don't see anything. I think maybe it got away, Brother Adam. And my raise on you is I don't think I've got this in me, Brother Adam. I think we lost this deer. If we don't want the elders to be disappointed, you better take lead here. I just feel like I'm not being any use.
Okay, so this is when I'm rolling hard to be shaken, because he's gonna remain composed and
roll with his self-pitying bullshit.
Yeah. So I'll roll 3d6.
Nice.
What I'm seeing is a big pile, so I'm not sure which 3d6.
Mine's a 4. And yours is your dice are all the red ones. So.
Yeah, so I just rolled 3d6, but I'm not sure which ones I rolled because they've come up all in the.
Oh yeah, that's a weird feature too.
It might be these 3.
Yeah.
That's a 6 and a 7 that I put in. Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah. We gotta talk. Maybe we should just like delete these other dice as they're used. That might be the best.
Okay, so yeah, he's not shaken by this. He's remaining like placid and thoughtful. So I'm going to use one die to throw it back, and so he just repeats it. He just repeats, "What do you see?" until Clarence looks properly.
And he does. He's like, "Oh, there it is. Oh, there it is now." I've got to admit, Brother Adam, I'm colorblind and I'm pretty useless in situations like this. I thought that was mud, but I can see now the way it's dripping from the tree. It wouldn't be mud. And so he's like, and he kind of nods. He's like, yeah. And I guess next I would just, I'd just see if I could find more of that blood and keep going, because if there's blood, that means it came this way, right?
Right.
And you proceed.
In my head, it goes like right, and it's literally right there.
Yeah, we just turn around, and it's shouting, and it's like...
and so Clarence goes forward. You're behind. Yeah, that was good. So go ahead and write your trait. While you're writing your trait, I'm gonna swing back over to Brother Nuka. Brother Nuka, what trait did you end up taking?
I'm not sure what to name it, but I was gonna put faith comes in all kinds.
Faith
I was
comes
also
in all flavors.
I was also well, I think what would make more sense is like assume best intentions or something like that, but I'm not sure if that would be a useful trait to have, right?
So these things can come out in lots of different ways. So
yeah, I was also gonna put not all ghosts because that was
as a meta thing, I like not all demons.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think your character would say that, obviously, but
yeah, I think I'll
put
assume best intentions. I think is what I'll put, and it was a D4 trait, was it?
Yeah. When you say assume best intentions, what do you mean by that? Like, unpack that more.
I think he was validated in assuming that the spirit wasn't vengeful or being like angry and violent, so that until something happens where that is shown not to be the case, he will assume that they do have other intentions.
So you're pretty trusting, right? So it sounds like.
Yeah, trusting. Yeah.
And that's a D6, by the way.
Oh, D6. Okay. Good. I guess I could just put trusting. That might.
Yeah, however you want to write it, it's fine. So I actually had to roll some fallout on that because I took a 3d4 fallout. Right. But there's a thing you can do for NPCs since I don't have any NPCs to apply fallout to. I think there's a way. I have to find it in the rules, but there's basically a way that like I can give you a little bonus in lieu of the fallout, right? I should find that real quickly. Unless somebody remembers off the top of their head how it goes. I can't remember what it is. I feel like I have to look this up every time I play this too.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
It might be on the reference sheet.
Maybe I get a relationship die or something.
You get some kind of like you can get some kind of bonus. I know that. Like I give you like a little bonus. I think I know what it is. I roll all my fallout dice, and I give you the highest, like whatever that number is. You get
for
that.
A trait?
Yeah, you get it to add to your like follow-up conflicts. Basically, you get like a 4 you can use in like a follow-up conflict. You would note like against demons or ghosts or something.
Okay.
So I'll just roll those real quickly. I have that wrong. Well, I'll fix it next session. We'll get it later, but I think that's right. So you get a 4. So you have like a free 4 you can use in a follow-up conflict with a demon or a ghost. Right. Oh, it'll go up here. Okay. Brother
What is
Ehud,
it?
how did you editorialize yours?
I put 1d6 into traits. Sometimes works just work.
Nice. Work apostrophe S is just work.
Yeah.
Cool. Sometimes works just work. I like that. And I don't think I owed you any. You do have follow. You have a follow-up die because you healed it, which is a good one. And then Brother Isaac, how'd you call yours?
So I have said I can find inner strength.
Nice, nice, nice. And you owe me some Fallout.
I do, yeah.
So you
tell
rolled.
me about
You had
this.
2 3s, right?
Yes.
On your roll. So let's look at the reference sheet. A 2 through 7 is a short-term Fallout. So if you look at the reference sheet tab, you'll see the little paragraph for short-term Fallout. You're going to just choose one of those things, whatever makes sense in the fiction.
Okay, so some short-term fallout.
So you can be thinking about that for a sec. And what did you call your new trait, Brother Adam?
I can let others take the lead, which is the essence of it, but I'm not very happy with the wording.
I was going to suggest patience is a virtue.
Yeah. It felt more like it was his patience that was on display, really, didn't it? Like he was, yeah, that's a good point.
You can make a case for both, whatever you think. It was good seeing you guys. Good, good, good. And you don't owe me any follow-up from that, do you? So we just met each other's until one of us, lost. Yeah. Cool. Okay, well, pick your short-term Fallout, Brother Isaac. We're going to take a 10-minute break, and we'll come back and begin the town. Blackbrush Bend is the town. We'll come back, and we'll say 26 after, and get going.
Hey, Ewan, now that I'm done, we should do the Veil stuff. Comic strip AV.
Yes.
I have a lot more bandwidth now.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Mm-hmm.
I've been going quite deep this week in the playbooks and kind of uncovering some subtle movie references in some of them and some not so, and then kind of going back to some of these tracks and kind of just working in like hints to that stuff. It's been really fun.
Cool. That should be awesome.
But yeah, so I'm itching to play it.
Mm-hmm.
I think I just caught the tail end of that. What was that a game which involves a lot of movie references or something?
The Veil, some of the playbooks in the Veil have quite direct references to some cyberpunk films, and I'm noticing more of that stuff the more I read them.
Yeah, sometimes they're quite brazen, other times not. You should see looks when I'm at cons. I'll just be like, "This is like an anime Marduk scramble," and people will be like, "What the fuck did you say?" But then you say the Matrix, and they're like, "Right."
Yeah.
So just while we're waiting, the Fallout that I took was a D4 in Skittish, I think.
Okay, cool. Awesome.
Oh yeah. Did the owl fly away after all?
No, it was that crazy multi-legged thing in my coat. That's the thing.
And
So
to
you
be
have,
clear,
like-
that trait that gets used like in the very next conflict. Like you use that.
Oh, does it? Oh,
Yeah,
I
and then it
didn't.
goes away.
Oh, so like you
And does
feel
it get
like
called in?
you feel like phantom centipede legs on you?
Yeah, something crawling on the back of my neck.
Well, Jason
And does
likes
that get called in automatically, or does it, or do I have to call it in? Or
I
does
think
it
you have to bring it in like normal, but if you don't, it goes away. Like so.
Okay. Cool.
And also, did you roll I can't remember. Did you roll a 1 on your Fallout roll?
Yes.
I think you did. Yeah. If you roll a 1 on Fallout, you also get to take a little advancement. So that's good.
Oh right.
Experience Fallout is you get to, if you look at the little list there, you get to choose one of those things too.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so you kind of want to get Fallout because it's the only way you can advance.
If only I hadn't destroyed you, Jason.
I think despite it, I mean, I think Isaac was really quite pleased that he was able to see the night through on his own, but it was really only still shored up by memories of his family. So I think I'm going to change the die size for my relationship with the dog pack to from 2d8 to 2d10.
I like that. That's good.
You can change it from 2d8 to 2d10?
Is that right?
Oh.
Yeah, if you bump it up a die size, yeah, it goes to D10.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
So just to catch you up, David, while we're waiting on you, Brother Isaac, for his Fallout, he has a short-term trait for his next conflict called Skittish at 1d4, and then because he rolled a 1 on his Fallout roll, he also gets to take an advancement and experience Fallout. So, connection, of course, being like the only way you can get experience is if you take Fallout in a conflict. So, so just know that if you want to strategically, miss a or fail a roll or whatever, or fail an exchange. So cool. You set out from Bridal Falls. Bridal Falls is so named because it has these 4 beautiful waterfalls that are in the mountain that kind of nestle around the town. called the Brides, and you set out from Bridal Falls, and maybe you take one last look at the four brides as you trot out on your horses. I think the time of year it's fairly temperate. I think it gets cold at night, but as long as the sun's high in the sky, it's fairly warm, or at least comfortable. But it does get quite cold at night. And you pass through a couple of towns. You even do some ministering while you're there. Towns that seem like they're okay. You blessed a new baby in Sage Gulch, and in Sage Gulch, you bless some babies. You maybe like officiate a marriage, that kind of thing. You had a beautiful dinner with the steward of the town of Eagles Reach, and mostly unremarkable. The people there, they put little threads, little additions to your coat, mostly just like there were no repairs to be made. But I think in Sage Gulch they like to put in like a little sage-colored ribbon being a very, very fine thing in this setting, right? Valuable and precious, right? Or at least like somewhat ostentatious, right? But a little sage-colored ribbon, kind of like on one of your hems. And in Eagles Reach, I think they put they weave in some like beautiful purple thread that looks like the dusk, in Eagles Reach, or at least a beautiful purple dusk. But you've been on the road with each other as a group of dogs for probably a couple weeks, right, or more. And you've gotten to know each other. You maybe didn't know each other very well back at Bridal Falls, but you've gotten to know each other fairly well on the journey here as we're going into Blackbrush Bend. I want to know from each of you, what do you each miss about Bridal Falls? And as well from each of you, we can take these in turn or however we want to do it. As well from each of you, I want to know one of your companions does something you find either particularly annoying or surprisingly endearing. The choice is yours. Name the companion and tell us what they do. Think about it for a minute while I enjoy my coffee.
I think for what I miss, it would be interesting if I miss the accommodations. Like, I think he had never had such luxury as they did in Bridal Falls, because back at the village, I think it was pretty modest accommodations and stuff. So he's missing that. And as for, I think he finds it endearing, but I think Adam has a really strange, it's not like a snore, but it's like a wheezing, or not like a wheezing, but like you make strange sounds in your sleep that aren't snoring. Almost like you're trying to talk but can't talk in your sleep, and he thinks it's like cute or something.
Does it remind you of home?
The snoring?
Yeah, the noise that Brother Adam makes.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I think that would. Maybe he doesn't even make that connection, but we do.
Good. Who wants to go next?
Yeah, I'll jump in. I think at Bridal Falls, I think one of the things that Brother Isaac became mesmerized by in some ways was this kind of these four cascades, these waterfalls around the area, and I think that just the way that they seem to be in such beautiful harmony and such a peaceful place as well. Yeah, really like that.
Yes.
And he is still missing a lot, his family in particularly, his mum. So he finds quite charming the way that Brother Ehud is doing a lot of the kind of the motherly things. He doesn't find it odd at all. He finds it, yeah, warming, reassuring, comforting.
Good. Like mending clothes and making sure that the campfire is tended to, the cooking, things like that. Brother Ehud.
I think that's what I miss. I miss not having to like be in charge of the meals all the time. And somehow it's just slipped to default that like he would do this. I think he just did it reflexively the first few times and then no one said anything.
But now they just let you do it.
Yeah. Just let me do it. So I miss not having to do quite as much of that kind of work, but I don't mind it too much. Surprisingly enduring or annoying. I think that Adam is like, you can always tell that he knows like the way that we're supposed to go, but he keeps waiting for somebody else to say where we should go. And I don't know why, but
it's such a dick move, but I like it. It's good.
That's pretty funny. We start down the left path and Adam's just like, I don't know.
He just stands there. He just stands there and like waiting for you all to like make a different decision.
Passive aggressive waiting.
Yeah, it's like a aggressive find another way.
Indeed. Perfect.
And then we have to take off. Oh gosh, what's your name? Then Isaac has to take off his coat and look at his coat, and then we find the right path eventually.
Right. Yeah. What say you, Brother Adam? What do you miss from Bridal Falls?
I think he's now hyper aware of the the lack of safety net that they have now. Like all the decisions, all the confidence that he might have shown with the other brothers and sisters back at Bridal Falls was because that there was no real responsibility at the same time. And now that there's just responsibility between the four of them, then like he's just very aware and almost on edge that their decisions really mean something now. And I think what he notices is Brother Isaac has mentioned his family quite a lot, and it's not perturbing, but it is concerning that perhaps his belonging with us. I guess Brother Adam needs to see him prove himself, perhaps, because the way he's talking about his family implies that he might be with us for other reasons than his abilities or skills. And he's just
like they would have. Yeah, like normally they send you out in 2s and 3s, but Brother Isaac is your 4. Is that the idea?
Yeah, interesting.
I like that. That's cool.
So Isaac is like imprinted on us.
Well, I think what he's suggesting is like Bridal Falls was like, why don't we send you with this group, Brother Isaac, right? That kind of thing.
Right.
He's only this one, you won't notice the extra.
Is it for Isaac, like with that sense of losing your peace from Bridal Falls? Does that mean like for you, if this was a movie and we were moving further away from Bridal Falls, is there like a darkness that comes or something, or like there's just a general sense of like unease for Isaac in the group?
Isaac or Adam? Sorry,
Isaac, right? As we were like, your sense of peace was grounded in the waterfalls that you're moving away from, right?
Yes, it's something that I would occasionally go back to the waterfalls, and when I had a bit of time to myself, then I would find that as a nice kind of safety blanket, if you like. But no, I don't think it comes with any darkness by not having it. I think it was just I think Brother Isaac is generally quite peaceable and maybe in a way almost oblivious to some of the bad stuff that happens in the world. I think he was just delighted by the white waterfalls, and I think that's the thing that he found them quite a joyful and wondrous piece of nature. But no darkness at this point. by them not being there.
Get ready to be skittish, my friend.
Blackbrush Bend is the next town on your route. Blackbrush Bend is a fairly small town, principally a community of farmers. It's called Blackbrush Bend because it's on the bend of a river. And so there are some people who make their living, kind of like, catching fish and things like that, right? But it's mostly a community of like just farmers, and there is a town proper though. It is basically like 2 streets connected by a couple of alleys, like a ladder basically. Fairly small. It does not have anything like, there's no blacksmith, there's no potter, there's no nothing like that. There is a small store. There is probably somebody who makes and mends things that are useful for tools for farming and net fishing and things like that, right? But otherwise, not a very big town. As you arrive, the townspeople will be immediately aware of you, right? The people who are there, going about their business in town, the people who actually live in town, there are some people who do, they'll immediately be aware of you. And every town you've been to, it was the same in Sage Gulch, it was the same in Eagles Reach, you're immediately swarmed by little kids and women with their babies, right? They want you to kiss their baby, rub some sacred mud on their baby, right? That's you expect this, right? It's like, it's the basics of your duties, right? Little kids run up, that's still a thing. No young women with babies come up to you. Some people will be cordial and friendly, but no blessing of babies. It's really unusual because the faithful are a fertile people. There should be lots of people with babies. That's evidence number 1 that there's something strange going on.
Is it that there are people with babies, they're just not coming to us, or that we're just not seeing
see any people with babies? Yeah, there's just a distinct lack of baby action going on in Blackbrush Bend. Not a good sign. Let me look at my notes for a moment. But little kids, running up to you, little kids, 3, 4 years old, as young as, running up, and maybe they, if you have anything like, if you collected something like candy or some kind of like some kind of barley candy or some kind of crystallized ginger root or something, you can kind of like share that with them if you have it. And all that kind of stuff's going on, and you will eventually be met by the steward of the town. In the setting, the town steward serves a very important role. They are the religious authority in the town. They're responsible for organizing and leading worship meetings and prayer meetings. They also act as counselors for people in the town, and they do their best to manage everyone's like spirituality, right? Their mode, though, is to be conciliatory and get to the bottom of problems and counsel and work it out. Most stewards generally recognize the dog's authority that particularly troublesome members of the community sometimes have to be dealt with harshly. They don't often respond well to that. They don't often like it, but they acknowledge it and accept it for the most part. That's what you've heard. That's what you've experienced. And that's what you've heard, at least. Your first 2 towns were not that eventful. The steward of this town is... Find him. The steward of this town's name is Brother Artemis. Okay? And he will come out and he will meet you. Let's get the image board going. How about that? I see an image in there already. Who is that? What is that?
It's Nuka.
Awesome.
It's a baby.
It's I mean,
Yeah.
let's get brother Artemis. Now, obviously, he's not dressed like this, but I have chosen character actor Dennis O'Hare to play the role of Brother Artemis for this adventure, this mystery, this town. Let's get him in there. And if somebody wants to label that, they can, but Brother Artemis comes out. He's a smaller, kind of slight man, very reedy. And he'll come out and he'll say, brothers, welcome to Blackbrush Brand. It's so good to see you. Here, let's someone take care of your horses. Come with me. And, it's kind of like ushering you away from the crowd, shaking your hand, ask you to introduce yourself. You look like you're in charge, Brother Adam.
Yeah.
And he'll come up to you and he'll say, I'm Brother Artemis. I'm the steward of Blackbrush Band.
So I'm still on my horse, I think. And I say, Brother Artemis, is it?
Yes, that's right.
These are my brothers, Isaac and Ehud and Nuka.
I'm sorry, what was that last one, son?
And Adam looks over to Nuka to see if he'll introduce himself.
I'm sure. I'll prefer a hand and say Nuka, Brother Nuka.
Nuka, what a fascinating name. And he kind of like, goes to shake your hand. And he kind of like takes your hand and like, it's very like almost like reverential or very, very deliberate the way he takes your hand and shakes it. He's like a convert to the faith, no doubt.
What about you, brother Artemis, Steward? You got yourself an interesting name too.
Oh, Artemis, yes. I don't know where my folks came up with that, but people around these parts have been giving me heck about it for years and years. I know it's an unusual name. And he kind of turns back to you, Nuka, and he says, what an interesting coat you have, brother. He's kind of like exoticizing your coat presently.
Yeah. I appreciate your fetishization. No, just kidding. Indeed, it's one of a kind, as are all of my brothers, and all like nod to each as a.
It's like wonderful. Well, and then he kind of sees you, Brother Isaac, and says, that is fascinating. And he's like looking at your coat. He says, that's incredible. What does that mean, brother?
If you look closely, Brother Artemis, you will find that Blackbrush Brand is within this pattern here.
I see it. Yeah, there it is. And like there are the little scrubby foothills to the north, and there's the river. That's fantastic.
Tell me, Brother Artemis, how long have you been steward in this town?
Oh gosh, I've been steward of Blackbrush Band for 10 years now, I guess. 10, 12 years, for quite some time. I did not serve as a dog myself, but I'm pretty good with numbers, and I know the Book of Life pretty well. So I was elevated. I was blessed to be elevated by the King of Life to this position about 10 years ago now, I think.
Then it's entirely possible you may have happened upon my elder brother.
What was his name?
Joseph.
Joseph.
He passed through here.
A dog?
Maybe 7 years. Indeed.
I do remember Joseph. Yes. Fine man, as I recall. Very, very good. What's your opinion, Brother Joseph? Out of character.
Sorry?
What's your opinion? Out of character, what's your opinion of Brother Joseph?
I love all my blood brothers and sisters. I look to them all with equal.
He's like,
kind of pride. And Joseph doesn't. I mean, he's not my favorite. I don't have a favorite. But I have a great respect for him.
And he was your uncle, you said? Or?
No, he was just an older brother.
An older brother. Yeah. So he was your brother, huh, Joseph?
Yes.
Excellent. It's good to see dogs take it. A family that believes in service like that. You don't see that too often. I mean, there's not much money, right? Can't. Family full of dogs isn't good for tilling the land. So that's fine that your family is so committed. I do hope, he turns back to Brother Adam, I do hope that you will accept an invitation from my wife and I to stay with us in our home while you're here. I think that would be fantastic.
Brother, do you have any business for us to attend to in this town?
Oh, well, brother, you like to get straight to it, don't you? Can't we at least enjoy some pleasantries? You've been on the road, I imagine, for some days.
And I'm still on my horse. I don't know about the other two. But I'm still looking down.
Yeah.
I look at Adam and I get off my horse, which is just this old knack, terrible horse named Monty. And I'm like, Monty's not good for any more traveling today, Adam. We better stay the night at least.
And Adam's his stony face forces itself into an acquiescing nod. You can almost hear his face creak into all right, yeah, okay. and I'll ease myself off, and I say, Brother Artemis, we would be you show us good grace, and we would gratefully accept your invitation.
Fine, wonderful. Well, I don't know if you have any business here in town, but dinner's usually ready, in about an hour, I guess. So if you wanna just come calling around that time, or come over early, that's fine too. Check out the place. My house is just a little ways down the road, just past the main drag. But in any case, I'll be happy to see you in an hour if I don't see you sooner. All right.
So were we sent here for some express purpose?
You just go to each town and you do ceremonies, and if there's any trouble, somebody will tell you.
Mm-hmm.
But otherwise, you're just here. You do have some weirdness, though. There are no babies. That's just a strange thing.
Yeah,
that's incredibly strange. And maybe Stuart Artemis will talk about it during dinner. Maybe he won't. But in any case, you just go from town to town, and sometimes there's trouble, sometimes there's not.
Yeah, is there a barn or somewhere that we can put these horses so we can?
There's a small stable you can kind of park them in.
So I think Nuka is probably the baby kisser in the.
Sure.
So Adam kind of as we're putting the horses in their place. Adam will just kind of side mention you kissed any babies yet?
No, there's been no babies to be blessed in this town just yet. It's actually quite strange now that you bring it up. Perhaps before we go to dinner, we could go for a walkabout and see what the citizens have to say versus what the steward will say later.
Yeah.
Well, let's pull the table if you guys don't mind. I just want to go around and find out what you would each do. You can safely split up. This is not a game where you have to worry about splitting the party, right?
Yeah, it's not dungeon.
Yeah, you'll know whenever it might be dangerous to do that, right? So I will just go around and ask you each how do you kill this hour? What do you do? Let's start with Brother Isaac. You're muted, Isaac, if you're talking.
Yeah, just trying to get the button to click on the unmute, so excuse that. When the suggestion is made that there may be a difference, Brother Nuka, why would the steward and the citizens tell us any different? We have to take them at face value, surely. That's what I would expect. And I look to Brother Adam and says, I shall follow your lead here.
Well, in that case, Brother Adam, what will you do?
I think Adam is the type to seize on trouble when it hits him. So he's waiting. He's probably gonna wait for dinner unless Nuka wants to do some deeper investigation. He probably try and tease any weirdness out of the steward.
The baton passes to Nuka. What do you do in this hour?
Yeah, he'll like if it's almost evening, I imagine they're just dragging the nets. So I would imagine he'd go help and then talk to them. But I think what his reasoning is all the more important if you're tending to the flock to actually speak to the flock and not assume that you know what is happening with them all the same.
So you'd go find someone. Would you be looking for a young man who might have maybe be married and have children or should have children, or a young woman? Or what would you be on the lookout for?
I think just helping people drag the nets, because it's probably hard work bringing it in. So, and I imagine it would take a few people to do that. So it would be like a good congregation of men before the before supper.
Yeah, that's good. In that hour, Ehud, what would you do?
Like, they're all kind of standing around and chatting about what they're gonna do, and I'm gathering all their bedrolls like off of their horses, like, and I'm gonna
getting all this stuff. Yeah,
I'm gonna take it in advance to the house and get them like situated.
Yeah, okay, good.
But I like pointed at Isaac. I'm like, hey, brother Isaac, we're getting real low on salt. And if you could just swing by a general store just real quick and pick up some salt, we're going to need that for the road.
I can certainly do that. Yeah, and I'll bring them. I'll bring them to the steward's house, or shall I meet you back here?
The steward's house.
That's absolutely fine. I'm happy to assist.
So Isaac is going to get salt, and Nuka is going to go talk to some men who are doing some net fishing on the river. And Ehud is going to go ahead to the house, basically, right? Maybe Brother Artemis's wife is there already getting dinner ready. Well, then Brother Adam, that just leaves you. What do you do?
I will assist Brother Ehud in his chores.
Yeah, let's do that.
I think make our way to the house.
Yeah, let's go to the Let's go to the house. So, Brother Artemis is not there. He's probably calling on maybe some different townsfolk, for different reasons, counseling and religious purposes, who knows, whatever. But when you get there, his wife, Sister Mara, is there. Sister Mara is she looks a little tired and frazzled, an older woman with kind of like auburn hair with like deep gray roots, kind of pulled back. And when she sees you come in, she was like getting dinner ready, but when she sees you, she kind of like very conspicuously like rolls her sleeves down, right? Because it's a bit scandalous to show a bit of wrist, right, to men. She certainly wouldn't want to tempt young dogs, right, away from their duties. And so to keep your thoughts pure, she rolls her sleeves down and pulls her hair back tight, and she says, "Oh, Artemis said you were going to be by. I feel very blessed that you're going to be staying with us, brothers, for the next day, 2 days. How long do you think you're going to be in town?"
I look at Adam, and he doesn't seem forthcoming with a response. So I just kind of give her a smile. I'm like, "Blessed be this house in the name of the Lord of Life. Thank you for having us. Well, we don't rightly know how long we're going to be here, but figured we'd bring these packs over and set up wherever you'd have us."
She's like, "Well, we've got a room in the back here. It'll be a little tight, but we've got two beds, and then we've got plenty of blankets to lay down on the floors, if that's all right. She says, you can take your things back here. And she takes you back. And there's a little room with like 2 beds. It's like maybe they used to have kids possibly who grew up and moved out or whatever. But just a little simple table and plenty of floor space. She'll get some she'll get some feather pillows and blankets and things, and kind of let you guys just make it cozy as you will. And she says, I hope you like fish. We're having a really nice fish stew for dinner. Should be good. Anything interesting in your travels?
We've been to 2 towns so far, sister. Delivered a lot of mail. Blessed a lot of babies. So I assume we'll be doing the same here. And our stay won't perhaps be very long.
I haven't had too many babies to bless in Blackbrush Bend, I fear. And I would know. I'm the local midwife. But, well, we're happy to have you nonetheless. I'm going to go finish dinner. She will excuse herself. Unless you intend to push the issue with her, but she'll just excuse herself.
I just kind of look at Adam, and then I'm like, it's just Adam and the woman, and I'm like, do you need some help?
Nice. She would probably be very surprised to hear that, but we'll cut away. At the general store. The general store is tended to by a man named Arthur Sisson. I'm going to put a picture of Arthur Sisson on our board. It's owned by a man named Arthur Sisson. That's what people tell you. They conspicuously do not say brother Sisson or brother Arthur. There it is. Arthur Sisson. And you can go in. There are various sundries, on shelves, mostly farming implements, tools, and nets, and sacks of fertilizer and things like that, right? And he'll be there, looking very much like he does there in the picture, and he'll say, one of God's watchdogs. Fantastic, fantastic. And what can I do for you today, sir?
Well met, Lord. The Lord of Life blesses your small establishment. Brother Sisson,
that's very kind of you, but I am not a member of the faithful. You may be disappointed to hear.
I give him a kind of a quizzical look, and it's like, this just doesn't happen because he's clearly not a man of the mountain. You're not one of the faithful?
No, I consider myself a spiritual man, but no, I have not accepted the King of Life in that way. I do not attend Brother Artemis's services, but I've been a member of this community for many, many years, and I'm well liked, and I do my best to support the worship of you and yours.
Well, we could certainly do with your support with some salt for now, and while he gets that, I'll engage him about his choice of faith or lack of faith. So tell me, is it something about the Lord of Life and the practices that we have that does not appeal to your prevalences? Your
He will. This may or may not escalate to conflict, depending on. He's pretty forthright about his thoughts and feelings, and he says, well, I just find I get very busy, and I'm a very, very busy man, a man of industry, a man of enterprise, and well, I don't have time to spend my waking hours on my knees, and and I'm a bit of a bachelor. I know that marriage is very, very important to you people. And let's just say that your faith is a bit rigid for my tastes, if you don't mind my saying.
Rigid.
A bit rigid, yes.
Our faith has clear strictures and structures, but that is to help us navigate the toils of life. If one works consistently, industriously, as you say that you do, then you must at least take some respite at sometimes and reflect on the fruit of your toil.
I do occasionally take respite. You are correct. And actually, at that point, you're going to hear like a peal of laughter, like a peal of woman's laughter coming from like a back room, like sort of like back area of the shop. A bit unusual. He said he wasn't married after all.
Excuse me, Mr. Sisson? Have I interrupted you at an inopportune moment?
And he gets a little like fidgety when he hears that laughter. And he's like, no, everything's fine. Oh, it's just my young niece visiting. And he says, nothing to concern yourself with, brother. Brother, watchdog, brother. And the
brother Isaac, that's fine. And I start peering through to the bank and says, well, it would be lovely to meet your young niece, and she's also of the faith.
I think we'll set up a conflict here, because I think he's going to want to. I think the stakes are you either go back there or you don't, right? Or you figure out what's going on back there or you don't. We'll get some dice on the table, and then I'm going to cut away for just a brief moment. But I want to pick. So the way this works for me is I've got a 6-pack of proto NPCs. I just write Brother Sisson on one of them, and those are my stats. So I also have some free floating dice I can use whenever I wish. So we're going to go with. I think he's probably this kind of guy. Arthur Sisson. Let's get dice on the table. I think we're starting with talking, right? So that'll be acuity and heart. And I'm going to take a relationship with the person who's in the back. I'm not going to name them yet, but they're in play for me, and I'm going to roll a dice there as well. So I'm rolling a total of 12d6.
Oh, okay, that's quite a lot. Yeah, I'm going to take acuity and heart. That's 8, and I think I'm going to go with dogmatically naive as well. I think I'm kind of bemused by how he's.
Traits don't come in until you raise or see. For the initial disposition, It's just acuity, heart, plus any relationships you think would be appropriate.
Is it a bit of a stretch to say to bring my family in this?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I don't know if it'll feel like a direct connection there.
No, that's fine. Let's just go with that then.
So you get those sorted, and I'm going to cut scene, or I'm going to smash cut over to Brother Luca. There are a few men. There are a couple of men down there bringing in like these heavy baskets with various fish and things that have like flowed into them, right? Very heavy baskets. Looks like hard labor, right? Because they have to kind of wade out to the river and lift up these heavy baskets. And there's a couple of men there, and they see you, and they're like, "Oh, hello, brother. We heard some dogs were coming through. Good to see you."
Indeed. But we can save the pleasantries till after we finish the work, and he'll like pick up a basket.
One of them comes up to you and says, "I hope you don't mind me asking, but are you a convert to the church?"
Technically, they would label me as such. Yeah.
I thought maybe that was the case. You've got a certain look about you, brother. What was your name?
Brother Nuka. And you are?
I'm sorry, come again.
Brother Nuka. And you are?
I'm Brother Job, and this is Brother Silas, and they're just like two young guys, right? Job and Silas. And they're like, well, we will certainly appreciate your help, brother, since our normal help is not here right now. And the other one says, big surprise.
Who is that?
Oh, that would be...
Is it the general store guy?
No, not the general store guy. That guy doesn't lift fingers like that. Brother Aaron, of course, is supposed to be down here helping us, since he has a stake in this here operation, but he's not around as usual. But I'm not one to be spreading rumors or saying things I'm not supposed to be saying. We would appreciate your help.
Seems most fortuitous that I came along then.
Indeed. And so you're lifting these baskets out. They are pretty heavy, because they get caught with like debris and stuff too. You gotta kind of like pick out the debris, get the fish and all that stuff. It's pretty bountiful though, right? They're certainly blessed in that way. So how do you proceed here?
I think I'll go along the tangent of bountiful. Let's say you've got quite the plethora of fish here, but I've yet to see any bountiful babies in other ways. Like,
Smooth move.
Yeah, where your babies at?
where your baby's at?
Yeah. You seem blessed and bountiful, but I've not seen the Lord's work in where the baby's at.
I think we got it. They're like, oh well, I mean that's no business of ours. We're single, of course.
Oh,
and they may well be. They're pretty young. So.
Is there a lot of faithful in this town?
Like, yeah, well, apart from old Arthur Sisson, most of us are notionally faithful, at least.
In just the 2 towns before, I kissed more babies than I could count. Not even one here, though. That is quite strange indeed.
Well, and brother Joe will say, well, my sister, she's pregnant right now, so maybe our baby drought is coming to an end. There's a gentle storm on the horizon, so to speak.
A gentle storm. Yeah, he'll laugh and clasp him on the back and say, well, so how long has this drought lasted?
Well, they're kind of like, bringing in their lines and doing their things while they're talking to you, right? And they're saying, well, it's been a while. They're looking at each other like, yeah, I think it's been, gosh, I mean, going on almost a year, maybe 7 months, 8 months. Hard to say, really, but yeah, there's been no babies in a while. Difficult births. That's what Sister Mara says.
Oh, so there have been births.
Oh yeah, plenty of pregnant women. Trust me, they're trying to do their womanly duty.
But the babies do not make it, and he does like the cross sign.
Right. Well, you guys do the tree.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
And they're
Tree
like,
it up.
And they get a little somber. They're like, yeah. It's just hard. A lot of the babies, they don't make it. It's sad, really.
And nobody.
Makes
there's
you
no
wonder why the King of Life does it.
There's no. Is there doctors in this setting at all, or anything like that? Or
the midwife might be the closest thing they've got, right?
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, I suppose I'll have to ask the midwife about all this then, hey?
Yeah. Sister Mara, she's well. You're probably staying with the steward, right? That's his wife.
Oh, excellent.
And then one of them's like, "Oh, I could just kill Brother Aaron for not being here right now."
I think I like gasp audibly. My word.
And they're like, "Oh, sorry, brother. You know what I meant. I just get so frustrated. This is not the first time he shirked his duties. Let me assure you."
Oh, indeed. Perhaps he needs to start talking to. I'm sure you have broached the subject before.
Yeah, but there's no reaching him. He's very, very preoccupied. And the other one says, we probably shouldn't talk about that. Let's just get back to work.
Well, perhaps, what is this what does this person look like? If I see him around town, I'll be sure to give him a good stern talking to.
And they look a little nervous. They're like, oh, just sort of normal like, just a normal man.
He's got one of them white names like Aaron.
And they're kind of like, we better get back to work, brother. Thank you for your help.
Sure. I'll drop it if they get uncomfortable about it.
Yeah, they're a little uncomfortable about it. Maybe something to think about later, though.
Privilege does that. Just kidding. But yeah, after that, I guess I'll just meander my way back to the house.
I'm going to cut over to Ehud with Sister Mara. And she's like, you sure you don't mind cutting these vegetables, Brother Ehud? That's not exactly the sort of work that menfolk get up to.
It's nothing. Sometimes you just need a couple more hands to make the work a little lighter, and I don't mind.
Work's work. That's what I say.
Yeah.
And she's like, she begins like kind of whistling a song or whatever, chopping vegetables.
So you said you're the midwife here?
I am. Such as it is.
Yeah, we were noticing there weren't many babies that were coming out with their young mothers to see us when we got into town.
She's like, well, it's because we that's because we lose them. I mean, brother, it's a terrible, terrible thing. Every time it never fails. Like one of these young women, they're getting ready, and they're maybe a few weeks out, a month out from the due date, and they just lose it. It's terrible. And then Artemis has to console them for days and days till they get over it. We've had a lot of sadness here at Blackbrush Band. It's the truth.
Lord Alive must have his reasons, but sometimes.
What kind of reason could he have to kill all them babies, brother?
Sometimes Lord Alive doesn't want to bring them into a wrong kind of environment. Did something happen before these started happening, or how long has this been going on?
Nothing's happening. Blackbrush Bend is we're a community, just a normal, faithful community as any other community. I mean, we got one atheist, an old Arthur Sisson, but every community's got one of those.
Yeah, I don't reckon that would be the cause.
I don't know. It's terrible. There's another young gal. She's got a baby coming soon, and I just don't know if I can take it again. Take another one lost, and then have them over here with Artemis, and consoling them, and it's exhausting and it's sad. And I sit here and I question, why is the King Black doing this to us?
Well, keep your face strong.
And then she kind of sits down and she says, brother, I hate to say it, but I don't think I can. I don't understand what sort of God would do that to little babies.
And I'll continue just making the things, even though she's sat down. But I'll kind of turn back to her after I've got everything in the pot, and I'm like,
I think we can have a conflict here, right?
Sister, you remember? Well, I mean, what are the stakes? What would the stakes be?
I think the stakes would be do you prevent her faith from being shaken?
Okay,
that is one of your jobs. Right?
Yeah, that's fine with me.
Let's do it. Let's get dice on the table. Well, we'll get dice on the table after we resolve.
Do the other one first, but yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to cut to Brother Adam, though. Brother Adam, is there anything you want to be doing while Brother...
No,
Brother
I think
Ehud is talking with Sister Mara.
I think all Adam was doing when, as they left, was they produced their bedrolls, and there were a couple of beds went there, and for two on the floor. So I think Adam unrolled the bedrolls for two bed spots, which would be Nuka and Ehud, and in a pointed fashion, made sure that Isaac and himself were on the floor.
Very stoic of you. So, Brother Isaac, you're there with Arthur Sisson. and you want the stakes are do you find out what's in the back room or don't you? I think is what this is about. So you got all your dice there. You got 4 there still too. Make your move. I'll let you go first.
Mr. Sisson, you say you've got your niece with you here, and has she travelled alone, or?
No. Well, so yeah, is that your move? The accusation, like, had she traveled alone? Or the question?
Yeah, I think it's. I want to find out. I guess there must be more of your family, and it is my duty as a dog to make sure that all the guests of a town are receive the blessing of the Lord of Life. So please don't interfere with my righteous duty in this regard.
We're pushing forward.
Ooh. I'm just going to go with these. I don't think this is going to go particularly well for me, to be honest.
I can reverse that. So are you sure you want to go with the 2?
Oh, you can. Sorry, you can. Yeah. I'll go with a 3.
Yeah, that forces me to spend 2. So. He says, "Oh, she's not alone. She's back there laughing with my other niece. Both of my nieces are currently in town, as it turns out." And then he will say, "Oh fuck! I just cleared all the dice. God damn it! Go ahead, 2 6s, and I don't think you can beat it without."
No, I think I'm going to yield fairly soon.
Yeah, you can yield and take a 4 if you want. But I was going to push forward 2 6s and say, "Well, look at the time. It's nearly dinner. I've got to close up. Let me go ahead and close up the store here, if you don't mind. If you want to come back tomorrow, and you can meet my little nieces maybe someday, and I'll make sure my nieces are. I got to get them fed. I'm responsible for them while they're in town." And he's like just ushering you out.
Family's got to look after its own. You're absolutely right. Let me not interfere with that.
You can take the 4, and you can note the 4 for future conflict against Arthur Sisson.
Does that go into follow-up conflicts?
Yeah, follow-up conflicts. Yeah, just note the number. All right. We'll get another scene or 2 going before we call the session. Maybe the dinner? Does that sound good?
Yeah. Are we going to have that?
Oh, yeah. Let's have yours. Yeah, let's have yours. Yeah. Let's start with...
So did Isaac get the salt?
Oh, I think maybe you didn't. Did you? I mean,
Probably not.
Yeah, I think you just... maybe you just left. I don't know. It wasn't steak, so I don't care. If you want the salt, you can have the salt.
Or we can scold you for not getting it.
We're getting salt, right? Exactly. Yeah, that would be a good entree to the conversation. Where's the damn salt, right? Yeah.
Let me get back.
Exactly. I think we'll just start with talking, acuity, and heart. I'm just going to grab a person here. Looks good. Sister Mara. I'm rolling 5d6.
Okay.
No, sorry, 66.
So I've got 8d6. I'm reading this right.
Yeah, just add up your acuity and heart.
Okay.
It's mine.
So are you taking the table by her coming out and saying?
You mean like, am I going first?
Yeah.
Let's just see who has high die. High die is you just sum the 2 highest. It's you, so you can have the first move. Okay. Whenever it's not clear, you just see who has the highest 2 dice.
Okay, gotcha. So I guess I'll play my two 6s. Because you play 2 dice first, right? You're muted.
Yeah, so the stakes are, is our faith going to be shaken in this? I think maybe we should even one of my jobs as a GM is to narrow the stakes when it's appropriate to keep it as narrow as possible, so there's legitimate follow-up conflicts. And I think I might narrow it to, is she even open to hearing your words right now? I think that's better. Sound good? Because then if she yields, she might be able to later question faith. So. But you're moving forward with a 12, so what do you say?
I just sit down and I'm like, you've read the good book, I'm sure, with your husband on more than one occasion. Do you recall the story of Job?
And I'll give and I'll hold my 6 for the future.
Okay.
And I'll say, maybe you tell it, brother. What am I meant to know from this story of Job?
Well, I can't get into just all of it right now, but maybe we can talk about it later after dinner or sometime tomorrow. But it's the story of a man who lost just about everything, lost his children, lost all his cattle. God had his reason. Lord of Life had a purpose, and that purpose was to test the man's faith. And then in the end, Job got twice as many of everything that he'd lost.
And she kind of gives a small, kind of weak smile and says, I think I'd like that. After dinner, let's read it together.
All right then. And I'd stand back up deliberately and kind of give the pot a stir and then say, I got to check on a few things.
Indeed. So we'll fast forward to right before the dinner. Basically, everybody's kind of just at the house, having learned some things. Maybe you're kind of getting cleaned up before dinner. Let's just have that scene in the room with each of you there in the room. Okay. Role play.
I think I'll walk up, and if it's before dinner, then I'll approach Adam and say, there wasn't too much to be learned down by the river, but it does seem like this town is in a bit of a drought, if you know what I mean. There's no babies.
It's not raining?
Yeah, it ain't raining babies or men. Nothing. Just regular rain. That ain't no good.
And are they poorer for it?
Oh, I think the men down there are demoralized. They just won't admit it or notice. There's a strange kind of grief hanging here, I think.
Yeah. The Sister Mara, the midwife, doesn't seem so disappointed.
Well, at least the salt's coming.
Yeah.
I knew I had to get something. But talking of for the poorer for it, I tell you one thing: the heathen that is Arthur Sisson, who runs the store, is certainly not looking too short of riches, and he doesn't seem too concerned about any droughts as such. He was quite brazen about his lack of faith.
I was told that most of the people in this village are of the faith.
That's the story that I've heard so far.
Perhaps Perhaps they need to renew it, though. I'm not sure what else could cause a drought like this. I thought maybe they were all not of the faith, but if they're all faithful, they should be blessed, should they not?
So out of character, you will have been taught at Bridal Falls that something so drastic as this, even something less drastic like dead crops or something like that, or like it's all evidence of demonic activity.
Oh.
And demonic activity means sin, and sin happens because of pride. Somebody's being prideful, which has led to somebody facing some sort of injustice, and then that leads to sin, and then when it gets out of hand, all this demonic activity can lead to false doctrine, like people beginning to question the King of Life, and maybe even like accepting different ways of worship. And then that can, in extreme cases, it can go to actual like false practice and sorcery. And at the end of all things, murder. No indication of murder yet, so this town can yet be saved. But demonic activity is definitely on the menu.
I think if it's pride, then I would definitely tell them about the young man that wouldn't help us bring in the nets, and that it's a reoccurring problem with the person that they've been talked to and they still persist. And it was, I can't remember the person's name actually.
Yeah, and not doing your work as a man, not doing your work would be prideful activity.
Yeah, and yeah, a reoccurring thing. Those men needed my help when they shouldn't have.
That's something we'll have to take up with the steward.
I'm somewhat concerned that the steward's sermons are not attracting the attention of Arthur Sisson. He was mighty proud to denounce his to regale in his lack of faith, and I don't think he was too concerned at all. I think this is as the provider for the community, the things that they can't reap themselves. He's in a significant position to control the things that they have access to, and if there are problems that they're getting, maybe he is a source of contamination.
He is almost, in the doctrine of the faith, Arthur Sisson is almost certainly, he could be a symptom of something. He's certainly not helping in terms of like keeping the faithful secure in their faith. But because he's not a member of the faithful, because he's not a part of the faithful community, his pride has no bearing. The King of Life cares nothing for his pride, right? It's the pride and sin of the faithful we care about.
Yeah,
I'm thinking maybe since we know that there's a problem here, and especially with that young man, perhaps a good test of this community is to see if the steward will put aside his pride and tell us of the problems at dinner. And if not, then we should confront him in his own.
I've been thinking about the midwife, Brother Ehud. Maybe you had a chance to speak to her while you were doing your... And he kind of shrugs, like, I don't know what it was you're doing, your stuff. But she seemed dismissive when I pushed her about the lack of children, the lack of babies. What did you...
Yeah, she's real upset about it, I'll tell you that. And it's causing a crisis of faith for her, but she's not so far gone. And I don't believe that it's stemming from any kind of pride. It's more, well, she's just upset. She's having to deal with this kind of up close and personal where others aren't. But I'll be speaking with her as well.
And also post facto, her questioning of faith comes post demonic activity, right?
Yeah.
That's a new layer of sin.
All the sins. It's like a truffle cake of sin.
Does it strike you, Brother Ehud, that she might have taken to her own devices in order to fix this problem?
I don't expect there's anything of the sort. No No signs of that yet, but we can keep an eye out for it. I'm truly concerned about this steward who's letting all this happen.
Mhm.
And, well, I don't know if dinner's the right time to bring it up. Maybe tomorrow, but I suppose what do you fellas think?
Well, could we have arrived in? If tomorrow is mass, then it would be a good thing to gauge the community who shows up and how good the mass is and such.
Indeed. Let's go to dinner. So you're having dinner with Brother Mara and Brother Artemis and Sister Mara. Brother Artemis will invite one of you to say the blessing. Who among you would do
that? I'm not very good with words.
We all turn our heads to Adam for some reason.
Yeah. And Adam like puts his fingers together and lowers his head and says, "Brother Isaac, if you would mind doing the honors."
It would be my privilege. I'd be happy to. And he makes an appropriate gesture at the table and a bowing head, and make sure that everybody else is doing the same around the table, so that we are respectful of the food that we are about to receive, the blessings of the Lord of Life, and the bounty that adorns this table. We only pray that the riches on the table that we eat here can be found also in the souls of the people of Blackbrush Bend and their future generations.
And they say their amens. And Brother Artemis says, "So I heard you met Arthur Sisson, Brother Isaac."
Yes, he is a man of no faith here, and it is a concern that he is so vocal about his lack of faith at a time where it feels like the community doesn't is maybe shaken a bit by the infertility that plagues you.
It's like, well, and Sister Mara says, "If only it were infertility. Fertility is not the problem." And then she realizes she kind of spoke out of turns, kind of gets a little quiet again. And Brother Artemis says, "Oh, Arthur Sisson, he's a rascal, that's for sure. He's a rascal. Who knows what he gets up to, except, well, I figure he wasn't born in the faith, he hasn't accepted the faith, and so he's on his own." As far as I'm concerned.
Is that the same of his two nieces that are visiting him in town?
Two nieces? He didn't have any nieces.
Oh, they were there at their store today when I was collecting, or when I was visiting for salt.
Arthur Sisson does not have nieces. This I know for sure. I've never known that man to have any family whatsoever. And certainly if his two nieces just appeared in town, I would know.
I would certainly hope so. So who could those have been? I'm confused.
So,
says naively.
Well, he says, "I don't know, but I have a sneaking suspicion it was probably Sister Clementine. And I only say this because, well, if there's anything going on unusual in the back of anyone's establishment or house, Sister Clementine is almost certainly involved. She's the kind of woman who likes to get in trouble. Let's put it that way. Right? She's got a wild way about her. But I do my best with her. She's not completely unreachable. Trust me."
I fear, Brother Artemis, that your best is not quite good enough on this matter. Family
and you can tell
and
he's getting a
respect
little
for family
offended when you tell he's getting a little offended or he's getting a little defensive here, how do you react, either or anybody else at the table?
Oh, let's not. Actually, instead of coming to the defense, I'll switch the subject entirely to doing the work of the bountiful fish. And say perhaps the problem lies elsewhere. When I was doing work with the young men, they needed more help, or it was a good thing that I showed up, because they needed help because somebody did not show up. I'm sure you know of whom I speak.
That would be Brother Aaron. He does like to shirk his duties. That is true.
Mm. And we all know where pride leads. I sort of do the double nod.
It's like, well, Brother Aaron is he's a good kid, but yeah, he definitely likes to shirk his duties. No doubt about it.
Does he show up to mass?
It's like, oh yes, he definitely shows up to the meetings. He shows up with, he and Brother Elijah show up. And you better bet if he's shirking his duties, he's shirking them with Brother Elijah. He was probably also shirking his duties back at his family's farm.
Adam says loudly, Brother Isaac, would you and maintains eye contact with Brother Isaac, would you please pass the salt? And then says, Brother Steward, is it not your responsibility to keep this flock in form and in file? If there were one or two members of your congregation moving away from their means and away from their guided positions, would it not fall upon you to put them back in their place?
He's like, well, yes, I suppose it would, but I'm just one man, brother. I mean, I must confess, I'm very happy the four of you are here. I mean, clearly, he gets a little quiet. There's something going on in our town. I mean, the babies, the births. There's something terrible going on, and maybe it's beyond me. Maybe I'm too soft-hearted with them. I don't know, but help us. I mean, won't you help us? That's what you're supposed to do, right?
Of course, that's why we're here. We need to have the full measure of things. We've already spotted several symptoms. What else can you tell us?
And at that point, there will be a knock on the door. Unusual for dinner time. And I've got a picture in my phone. It's a gigantic picture, of course. She's dressed in more period dress, but otherwise looks like this. Kind of like one squinty eye and one kind of like half blind eye, older woman, red hair, and dyed red incidentally though, not gray rooted like Sister Mara. There's a knock on the door, and Sister Mara says, "I'll get that." She goes, and there's a bit of like, you see this woman, and she says, she kind of, the house is not huge, and so she kind of like calls into the dining room, right? She says, "Oh, I'm so terribly sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt your dinner. I just need to have a word with Mara." And Mara's like talking with her about something. You can't quite tell what they're talking about. What do you do?
I just like look at the steward and I'm like, who's that?
It's like, it's Sister Theodosia. She organizes a little knitting circle for some of the women in the community. And that's probably what they're talking about, wanting to know if Mara's going to come tomorrow after service.
And I kind of look at him and look back at the women. Does that seem to be the kind of conversation they're having?
They're definitely talking for a little while about sewing circle type thing. And Theodosia says, finally, she says, "Well, good, it's all settled then. We can't wait to see you there tomorrow, Mara." Sorry, I'll meet your acquaintance tomorrow at service, brothers. I've got to get back home. Just wanted to stop by, Brother Artemis. And then she kind of like excuses herself.
That feels really awkward because we're all still sitting down, aren't we?
Yeah. I want to just poll how everyone's thinking, and then this is the end of the session, but I just want to get a read on what your character's thinking, what your next steps might be, what do you suspect, that kind of thing. Nuka, what do you think?
I'm thinking I want to find that person shirking the duties at service tomorrow and sort of like sit in on mass and take the temperature of the town while also like paying particular attention to Elijah and Aaron.
Good. What about you, brother? Say, Brother Isaac.
I'm disappointed that even a man of not of the faith would see fit to lie brazenly to a dog, and I'm equally disappointed that the Brother Artemis is feeling powerless to do much about the situation that he's in. Both of these things are completely against my expectations of what people of the Book of Life or the Lord of Life should be capable of.
Dude, Brother Adam, what do you think?
Adam wants to hold the steward to account. Like, he thinks that it's his responsibility, and it's starting to feel like that this is a thing for Adam. Like, you need to hold on to your responsibility, and yeah, maybe that's his angle.
Yeah, Brother Ehud.
Yeah, I think the steward needs to explain a bit more what's going on, because we've spotted these things on our own in just the hour that we've been in town. So there's got to be more that's going on. So he needs to account for everything so that we can help him straighten things up. But I think I owe his wife a conversation after dinner.
Indeed. All right, well, we'll end the session there. We'll finish up Blackbrush Bend next session. And if we finish up a little early, we'll do an intersession or a little intertown sequence between towns as well. And then we'll do the second town in the third session. I'm not sure who's RSVP'd for session 2, but we'll figure it out. If Michael or Mikhail is still RSVP'd because he canceled from today, I may just ask him to step down so Fraser can have his spot. But we'll look at it and figure it out before next week. But in any case, I'm not going to do Discord chat because I have to get ready for a phone call here in a minute. But just before we go, we can just debrief really quickly here. I will say that I enjoyed character creation. I enjoyed learning about these characters. I feel like we got a really good handle on them just with a little bit of time that we have with them. I'm particularly interested in continuing to explore Nuka's. I like this idea of like how much they fetishize Nuka, right? Like, and that's something I'd like to keep doing in its way. I like the burgeoning relationship, the sort of like saving the faith of Sister Mara with Brother Ehud. Arthur Sisson is interesting. I'm interested. I can tell that Brother Isaac's super focused on Arthur Sisson, and I'd be curious to see how that shakes out, because Arthur Sisson, you know, it might be clear, it's like a little unclear like where he falls on the spectrum of sin here, whether he's responsible for any of it or if he's just another sign of this place's degradation. I don't know, but I thought it was an interesting angle. And Brother Adam, I think you're probably right that the steward needs to be held to account here a little bit, right? Like, he clearly doesn't have a handle on his flock, right? There's stuff going on. And in case you didn't pick up on it, you should all be very suspicious of Sister Theodosia. Okay, she behaved weirdly. She is kind of a strange person. But that's just a kind of rambling, like kind of where I see things going, what I'm interested in. But I thought you did a really lovely job. It was really fun. So.
Yeah, it was really fun, and it was good playing with everybody again, and good first time playing with you, Jag.
Likewise, I've enjoyed playing with all of you. Good to meet you all, and yeah, really enjoyed the setup and the way that it's flowed. It's the first time I played a Gauntlet Hangouts game, and it's nice to see the free flow and the structure as well combined. It's a very enjoyable gaming experience. So thank you.
Awesome, glad to hear it. Cool. Just out of curiosity, how did you hear about it? About Gauntlet Hangouts?
That's a good question. Through Google Plus, people that I'm in circles with.
Got it. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Any other feedback? Anything else you want to say?
No, I had a good time. That's a different sort of game, a more challenging sort of game.
Thematically or mechanically?
A little bit of both.
Okay.
I still am not super familiar with the mechanics. I haven't played this before, so I'm like.
I thought you had. I don't know why I thought you had.
Nah. But I was just looking at the Firebase, and it looks like we've got everyone. Session 3 has an opening, so it looks like Fraser, if you wanted to hop in there, you could.
I thought I signed up for all of them. No?
Not that one.
I think I waitlisted each of them. Or maybe I thought it was just 2 of 2 or something. I don't know.
Well, go check it out. See. Cool. Anything else? Anything else we want to say? I'm not going to do full Roses and Thorns. I might do it next session. But
there's one thing that I was finding interesting towards the end was Isaac's interest in Sisson was interesting to me because he doesn't seem like he's got any idea as to what he's gonna do. It's more like, well, this just isn't right, and so I want to learn more about it. And I really like that because Adam has like clearly like there must be some rules like that needs to happen, and that's different with Isaac.
Yeah, I think it is. I think Isaac's coming from the perspective of the faith is all he's known. Everybody that he's always really been around has been in the faith, and to find someone so
shocking, right?
Yeah, it's shocking for somebody to be categorically not of the faith, and knowing strongly why they're not as well. I think that's something that he's struggling a little bit with.
Yeah, and like your first interaction with him, he lied to you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it also comes back. See, what I think the interesting bit of tension there with Arthur Sisson is he thinks he can do that because you have no jurisdiction over him, right? Like you have jurisdiction over all these other people, and he was almost certainly protecting some faithful in the back of his place, right? I mean, those were not his nieces, so he understands it, but like he does not believe he himself is subject to it, right? I think that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Just on that, we had that encounter, and I didn't obviously bring in my Fallout dice. So my D4 from the first, it goes at this point.
Oh yeah. The little it goes away. Yeah, the Fallout one. If you didn't use it, it goes away.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna try to read more of it because I'm struggling a little bit with the dialogue aspect of it, as you may have noticed.
I mean, I'm okay if you kind of like you can handle it in summary too. Like if you just want to say my character tells him something like XYZ, that's fine by me.
I should have watched some Westerners when I was young.
I mean, like David, I know personally. I know that David comes from like a sort of has been steeped in some religious background, right, from where he's from, and I have a little bit of that too. So I used to be Mormon. So like I think some people maybe just have some familiarity with it, right? But I think it's okay just to be like, just handle it kind of in a more abstract way if you wish. Right? Where the baby's at.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, because I was just like not sure. I haven't watched Westerns, and I don't know much about religion, so I was just like, I don't know how I should talk. But yeah, I'll take people's leads more, I think.
Cool. Well, that was great fun. I will see you next week. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.